the conflict. I'm going to call this meeting to order. So do you mind starting recording?
Just a,
Okay, good.
yeah.
It's 31. Just like last month. Okay. We have changes and additions to the agenda. We will have an executive session this evening. Does anybody else have executive session matters?
not executive section, but to change the agenda, we had something about, the theater, budget.
Yeah, well, we could bring it up during the budget discussion.
Great.
What's the purpose of the executive session?
It's a personnel matter. Okay. What? Anybody else have any other additions to the agenda?
Just an order change, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So that, some people here to talk about curriculum implementation.
I'm sorry, can you speak up with it?
Curriculum, if I could say the word, curriculum implementation would like to go first under the admin report and then flexible pathways after that. Representing those.
Yes, I got a letter.
I don't have a letter, a resignation letter.
Another resignation letter? Okay, and that should go probably under items for discussion, right? Okay. Okay, curriculum implementation first, or just above? what's
Flexible
around it?
pathways second.
Okay, and then report on this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. If that's okay.
And okay, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of November 13th.
So move, Davis.
Second, Nancy?
My goodness, we are all here. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Can we have a discussion?
Well, oh, sorry.
Do we need a discussion before approving?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
So for the executive session part, we came back and voted and none of that is here.
I don't know.
What was
Oh,
the
that's right.
about?
Oh, good eye, yeah.
On the
It was on.
Resignation.
Resignation vote, yeah.
Was that approved?
Yes.
there wasn't Bill abstained, so I think that's probably important. to
Yes.
too.
Yeah, it's noted up at the top, but we did vote at the end of the meeting, so it's.
Oh, is it?
So we talked about it in items for discussion and then
Oh,
because
right.
of we
But the
decided
vote
we needed
wasn't
the discussion,
there.
because it was a contract issue, we voted after.
I just didn't see the vote in there.
Yep, yeah, it's not there.
You're right.
Yep.
Thank you for that. Good eye.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
I was
no,
gonna
thank
picture
you. Anything else? Anybody else have comments, corrections? So all those in favor of approving the minutes of November 13th, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any abstentions? I can see them. Okay. The next is the board involvement report.
I attended and Larry was there.
What is-
Board,
I attended, at Hartford Technical Center. Larry was there.
Yeah.
The quarterly, meeting for administrators. And it was great. They happened to have on that particular day, a presentation by students, female students and female teachers that were their facilitators. So they set it up in, different corners, and each student was, performing a particular, presentation, be it in technology. I, on that day, learned how to change a tire. That was what I chose to do. So it was being facilitated by female, teachers or instructors, and it was female students. And that was just really exciting. So, and that's at the Hartford Tech Center. I know last year there were a lot of our students that participated in Hartford, and probably the same thing. They were just excellent. I mean, their programs are excellent. You know, it's just a good place to be for kids, you know, for students, just to learn other things. So, yeah, it was really great.
Thanks, Rebecca.
I've been able to get back into my drop-ins, just about every week if I can. And this past, I think it was this past week, I dropped by, I got to see Jen Townsend and some of her students working on a really cool mural up above the cafeteria in that little open space by the library. Chat with some of them, which is really cool. And I'll be here, what is it, 2-3 lunch tomorrow, Mr. Jim, in the grade school. I also got to go to a really, I thought a really insightful presentation that was streamed in this room a couple of weeks ago about parenting and social media and some of the issues with that. So I thought it was a really great event. I'm glad the school put it on. You know, it's good to see, you know, in addition to all of the great, you know, theater events and sports and stuff that we're also getting, spurring on these conversations and engaging our community, because that's some pretty important pressing stuff. So I was happy to be able to make to that.
Is that well attended?
It was pretty well attended. Yeah, there was like 15.
Yeah, we actually got a lot of, we opened it up to the schools in the SU. We actually got a nice group of Weatherfield representation. I'm glad you guys talked about this. It's going to come into play in the budget hearing.
And make sure you have the play in the, that many of us saw and loved.
I went to the turkey trot.
It was very, very cute.
Great. Jesse did a great job organizing, and the kids were very excited to be running outside. I know mine slept really well that way.
Excellent. Thank you all. I don't have, because I don't have my computer, I don't have the thing that I normally read for public participation and announcements. But, essentially, public participation is not required, but we think it's really important, and it's not, it doesn't turn this into a forum. So if you have comments, we won't answer them except to clarify or to follow up on something. But please state which town you reside in, and please keep your comments under 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Beaver. Hello. David Dash from Windsor, Vermont. The first thing I'd like to say is I want to congratulate Hudson on his new and exciting commitment that he's about to endeavor on, and I want to wish him luck. I know he'll do a great job and make us all proud. And I'm happy to say that through this political process, me and Hudson I'm happy to say I think we're friends, you know, we go communicate out in the public and stuff. And although he didn't tell me the meeting was at 6:30, I didn't tell him. I'll forgive you. Anyway, good luck, Hudson. We'll miss you. I'll miss you. Budget season's coming up and, last year, right around after elections and stuff, you know, we got into a lot of things and unfortunately, I don't think that this year is gonna be much easier for any of you. It's been reported in the news recently that all Vermonters can expect a quite large tax increase next year. And on the news, they're calling between 15 and 20%. And, any increase is becoming more and more difficult for a lot of people, but, one that large is, going to be really, really difficult to absorb. So I'd like to ask the board, during the budget process, if we merged with Albert Bridge there 4 years ago or whatever, I think that this year it's more important than ever to identify to the public, the cost savings and what the merge has done to save money for both for Windsor and West Windsor. And I'm not just saying give programs that we consolidated. I'm asking if you could actually give us the dollar figures that we've saved. So as a voter and a taxpayer, I can think about it and identify it. And then, in the Valley News on Sunday, December 3rd, there was an article on the front page. I got it here if you want to read it. About the Rivendell Interstate School District talking about closing an elementary school in Fairleigh. And I know this is an emotional subject for most people, and especially West Windsor people. And I'm sure they won't even want to discuss it, but with this being the possibility of the budget year that the news is already reporting, I encourage the board to be prepared to define the costs and the benefits of keeping Albert Bridge open, because it's going to be a tough year, and to have the luxury of another school with 46 students, when we have the capability to bring them here, I ask that you be prepared and get ready for some of us to ask tough questions about, can we afford it? Thank you.
Thanks for that input. Do you have a public comment?
I'm here for the curriculum update.
Okay. Yeah,
This is just to publicly announce my resignation of the board after tonight's meeting, as I. This is just to publicly announce my resignation from the school board as the student rep effective after tonight, as I'm heading to the US Senate page program. So it's good news, but I'm sad that I will miss this piece. Thank you.
well, that was gonna be my announcement, was that this is Hudson's last meeting with us. And I know that we don't normally do this at school board meetings, but let's give Hudson a round of applause. Hudson, you've been a great student representative. I have loved watching you dig deeper and deeper into what that really means, both locally and personally.
Thank you.
And you really, I can only speak for myself, but I think you represented the students of Windsor really well. And you stuck up for students when they needed sticking up for, and brought that perspective that we really needed as a board. So thank you for your service. And we are so, I know I speak for everybody on the board saying that we are so proud of you and so excited for you.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Does anybody,
Can you tell in more detail what his new endeavor is?
It's the US Senate page program,
please
which
speak up a little bit, sorry.
it's the US Senate page program, which is you go to school in DC, you live in Webster Hall, which is an old funeral home, and you attend school down there, and then you're an aide to the Senate after school at 5 in the morning. So from like 10 to 5 or 6 at night, you're working for the Senate.
Your school starts at 5?
Yeah. So it'll be quite an adjustment, but it shows that it's a commitment. But yeah,
Listen, will you be working for months, Senate delegation, or are you working, or do they spread you out, or how does that work?
you're in the, since I was appointed by Sanders, I'll be in the, any Democrat can take us at any moment.
How many pages are there?
30 in the whole country.
Wow.
It's a big deal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it is a really big deal.
Holy smokes.
Good job.
Yes. That's great. It's really exciting.
Life-changing experience.
Thank you.
So, we can't wait to hear about it. We expect to hear.
You'll get to hear about it.
Okay. Anybody else have announcements they'd like to make? Oh, yeah.
I'd like to announce that, I'm not gonna be running for the 2020.
I can't hear you.
I'm not gonna be running for the school board member for March 2024. I'm saddened by the decision, but, I have to, say that I'm honored. I've been honored to be working with all of you. Your dedication and just love for all of the children has just filled me, and I do want to thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. We're not done with you yet.
No, so don't go there. Right.
No.
So no.
Anybody else? All right. Then let's move on to student presentation and learning.
That's, I think Jennifer's, ABS presenting tonight.
I think Annalise is online, ready to take lead on that as our lighthouse leader. Are you ready, Annalise?
I am. I just bear forgiveness. I have not shared a screen on an iPad before, so I'm sure there's technical difficulties that will come because that just seems to be my luck. Okay. All right, now I've got to get to what I want to share. Let's see if I can make this bigger. You know, I'll go in my files. Why is it always at, you know, like a true trauma-informed person, I'm understanding when we're under stress. We can't ever find our files. It's coming. All right. I'm so sorry. I had my apologies on this one. I just can't see. Are you guys not getting sound?
No.
No audio.
Oh. I wish somebody had said that. Well, thank you, Jennifer. Let me take out let me take out my AirPods, and that might help. And I apologize, but this is not how I would want it to be. Actually, you know what?
Annalise, thanks for hanging in there with this. We call that perseverance.
Oh, I'll persevere. All right, hold on.
Annalise, would it make sense for you to try and share it with me, and I'll see if I can't present it? Maybe we can do one item before this while we figure it out.
Yeah, if you want to do an item before it, I am gonna do is I'm just going in through the old way and just pulling it off of that. So I think that I am there. So I can try. We are teaching students to understand that they are just one piece.
Christine, did you attend the I-77 thing last week?
Tracy and Kim Gogan were able to go. So Kim's on tonight, maybe she'll talk about it. So I wasn't able to do it. Did you go?
No, that's what I'm asking.
I wanted to. I wanted to, I just couldn't do it.
I wanted to too.
Yeah. But Tracy, she did film me today. She said it was really quite good. So good.
Is she gone?
No, I'm here. I heard talking, so I was figuring it's not working again.
No.
No,
Yeah, we can see it.
You couldn't hear it?
no.
Okay. Why don't you guys go to the next one? I'm gonna problem solve what's going on.
Okay. Let's go to the administrative report. We'll come back before our items for discussion.
You need the screen.
Oh, sorry. We're gonna start with curriculum and implementation. Am I right?
Do give me 30 seconds to log into the meeting and then I'll share it.
What's up?
I don't know where you want me to go.
Joe's gonna. There you go.
Okay, so we just
Who
made
are
a,
you?
oh, sorry. I don't. I'm Jessica Jack, I'm the 3-5 literacy interventionist here at Windsor. Amber is our K2 interventionist and Mike is on as well. He will do a little bit of discussion about the math. He's our 3-5 math interventionist. So we just did a quick little update about how the curriculum is going and with some feedback from our teachers. So you can go to the next slide.
Yeah, and this is just a response for your question, Megan, last time. Where are we today with curriculum? And we've got these amazing folks who are the dream team here to tell us all of it.
Sure. If it goes. Okay, so I won't review all of the slides. We've just made a few quick glows and grows, which as a teacher I liked to do parent conferences by. So a few glows about this CKLA curriculum. If used with fidelity, all students will receive an equitable education throughout our entire SU. Because as you obviously are well aware, we adopted it through the entire SU. It's rich in oral language. Teachers feel like it's having a big impact on students in the future. I think it will come up in the growth, but it's a heavy hit right now. So in CKLA is broken up into two kind of parts: skills, which is only taught in K2, and then knowledge, which is taught in both in K through 5. So in K2, the skills portion is grounded in the science of reading and current research. So it's a big focus on phonics and phonemic awareness, which we know our students desperately need. It is explicit teaching of those phonics and phonemic awareness skills. It provides many opportunities for formal and informal assessments. It's very discussion based, and there's also obviously formal built-in assessments in it. So I already said this, but teachers like having access to an explicit and systematic curriculum. It ensures that all standards are being taught and they build upon one another. So they have kind of a grab and go that tells them what to do. Some units and topics, students are engaged in making connections. It has materials such as workbooks and readers so that teachers don't have to outsource or create material. That's a really big glow. I know that budget season is coming up, so keep in mind that the workbooks are really helpful to the teachers and the students. It also has the ability to accommodate all sorts of student needs throughout the digital tools. So CKLA comes with, or we have it this year, I'm assuming it's probably an add-on, but there's a digital component so the students can listen to the readers. They can also access all of the workbook pages digitally and use things like talk to text, and they can type in that answer so they don't just have to use workbooks to write. And then there are some grows, as with everything. So it's not necessarily meeting the students' current needs because there are large learning gaps, especially in the bigger kids. I live in the 3-5 world. So there is no phonics and phonemic awareness explicit instruction because science tells us that students in those grades should have those skills, but reality tells us that they don't. So it's not necessarily meeting all the students' needs. The old curriculum was lacking rigor and explicit instruction, and this new curriculum has a lot of rigor and a lot of explicit instruction. So there's definitely a large gap that we have to fill. The writing demands of CKLA are higher than we had in the past because we didn't really have much for a writing curriculum. So CKLA has high rigorous writing demands. So we're seeing some gaps there. It's a major time constraint for both preparing lessons and implementing the curriculum with fidelity. The lessons are very long. CKLA says that they should be 90 minutes, but practice is showing us that that's not, you can't teach a 90-minute lesson in a day, so they're taking a lot longer. Which leads us into the physical days in the school year. It's just not enough time to cover all of the units. So as of now, there's not been any work done to consolidate which units will have to be missed or will have to overlap on. So teachers are really worried about fitting it all in. And when you miss a unit in one grade, it obviously impacts another grade. So the figuring out of how, when, and with what materials differentiation can be implemented is a big thing right now that's falling on teachers. Don't know if there's a lot of them. Okay. There's not a lot of student voice and choice. It's strictly teaching the curriculum. It's very scripted. It lays all the units out. It gives you the topics. It pretty much tells you what to say, which of course you can ad lib and add in and put the teacher back into it, but there's not student voice or choice in it. Teachers feel that some of the topics are not developmentally appropriate, which is resulting in some behavior concerns. It is not easily accessible for substitute teachers, which makes it challenging for teachers who need to be out. And it is not at all hands-on. So it's very workbook and discussion based. So if you are not supplementing, then it's not a hands-on curriculum at all. I will do my very best to answer any and all of your questions. However, you also could direct them at Patty and Angie, who are the ones that know lots of answers, but I will totally answer them.
Well, I'm asking questions based on your
Okay.
slides, strictly.
Okay,
Okay.
ready.
So what do you mean by a hands-on curriculum? What do you mean by?
So
hands-on
there's no
curriculum?
like projects that go with it. There's no like students choosing what books they want to read about and doing anything like that. So with Wheatley, I taught work here previously. With Wheatley, it was like you could teach the standard and it was based around a topic. So you could do a lot of like project-based learning with that. And CKLA is not like that. You have to teach the workbook pages and the lesson as it's scripted. And if you don't, then in 4 lessons ahead, it'll say, remember when, or it builds on, the lessons build on. So you can't necessarily take bits and pieces of it out.
And what do you mean by the developmentally appropriate topics are like, I guess what I'm specifically asking is, are they topics that are too old or topics that are too young?
I would say that they're topics that are too old and or not of high interest to the students. And there's some stories in the readers that when we had our training, I guess, on it at the beginning of the year, a lot of the teachers within the SEO, I know this is only about our district, but within the SEO, we were all like, interesting story choices. So teachers aren't necessarily feeling like they're all appropriate for students.
So are we using this or is it a trial?
We are using this. We've adopted CKLA across the SEO. Yes, we piloted it last year, but we didn't pilot anything else. We tested it out last year, but we adopted it fully this year across the entire SEO. Yep.
Were you on the pilot committee?
I piloted, but only 1 unit. So they send you certain units to pilot for free, and you have to just use the ones they send you. So I only personally was able to teach 1, just where it came in the year. I only taught 1.
And what was your impression of that then?
Well, it happened to fall perfectly with where I was teaching the Revolutionary War with my unit. So there's a CKLA unit. So some of them align pretty well with topics that Wheatley, our previous curriculum, had. So it was great for me, but I was piloting it. So I got to supplement and do a lot of fun bits that I normally did with the Revolutionary War. Because we were just piloting it, I didn't do it with the strict fidelity that we're.
So you're not able I mean, are you able to tailor it at all to pick your own books at all?
No, it comes with a reader.
Okay.
So each unit has its own reader, and the reader goes along with each lesson. So it'll say like, read this chapter, read this story.
Okay.
How are the children doing? Do they like this? What's
I
going on?
think it depends on the unit and the grade. So there are certain units that are of higher interest and teachers are doing their best to kind of supplement and make it more fun. I know fourth grade was reading about medieval times, so they added in like a building castles unit, and we've kind of shared at our SU meetings that teachers need more time and need a little bit more grace to kind of step our toes into this. So the SU has said like, okay, you could slow down a little. It doesn't have to be like a lesson a day and strict with fidelity like we were told in the beginning. So I think they're liking it, but it's definitely a different approach than I think what we used before. It's a lot of teachers talking at you and a lot of workbook pages, a lot of kind of, yeah.
So I was wondering, because you said that there are two other interventionists.
Yeah.
Okay. Do all of the interventionists work with all of the children, or are they pretty much focused on one particular group of kids? And I'm just trying to get a sense of, because you've already said that we've identified gaps.
Yep.
And so, I mean, who's seeing those gaps? Is it the interventionists and the teachers, and how does that discussion go once those gaps are identified?
Sure. So we're all instructional coaches. All three of us are instructional coaches and interventionists. We also are MTSS coordinators. So it all kind of falls under the same umbrella. So we meet and look at the data, and we meet with the grade levels to say, okay, here are the gaps we're seeing on your curriculum data, on your STAR assessment data, which is our progress monitoring data, and then we make groups from there. So teachers are trying to fill those gaps in their wait times in the classroom, as well as we pull kids that are kind of the next tier up. We work with them in and out of the classroom. So it's been both. We all see them, we all share them, we all do it together.
So that's a good thing in some regards, because your eyes are on all of the kids.
Yeah, for sure.
So in that regard, that's a good thing.
A little bit of our budget meeting, I'll talk about this model that Jesse, Mike, and Amber are part of, because it was our big investment from last year's budget. So I'll shout these dream team folks out a little bit, and I can explain how Jesse did a great job. You got it. But
Thanks. Jesse.
that
It
was,
really,
I can't underscore what they have been able to do this year in terms of supporting our teachers and supporting our students. I think they are moving us, I'm stealing my punchline for later, but they are moving us, I think, at light speed, which is really exciting. So.
I also just want to share that we made the presentation, but we sent out forms to our entire staff. We to our Windsor staff, but some of the people we work with. But this is feedback directly from our teachers.
That was going to be my last question.
Yeah, it's not, we didn't make it up. It's directly from the teachers, and we meet with them weekly to have these discussions, do the data meetings and such. And so that came from there, as well as the weekly or bi-weekly across the SU curriculum meetings. Some of this information came from there. Patty shared some things that just was brought up at the SU instruction. What was it? The SU curriculum in service day. Sorry, thank you. That's one thing. So some of this came from the whole SU, as well as directly from our teachers.
Thank you. Thank you, Jesse.
You bet.
Thank you, Jesse. That was really helpful.
Is Mike,
Oh, yeah, Mike is here and happy to talk about Eureka. He does all the maths.
Okay.
Hudson can attest to the fact that this stuff only does the reading.
Good evening. I'm Mike Doogie. I'm the 3-5 math interventionist at Windsor. I'm new to the district this year, so I come from teaching fourth grade for a long time in another district, and am happy to be here and working to support teachers 3 to 5 in math. Many of the challenges and many of the glows from the CKLA sort of translate pretty well to Eureka Squared. We had some folks move from Eureka and pilot some of Eureka Squared last year, and we moved now to everyone implementing the Eureka Squared curriculum, which one of the benefits is it's largely familiar to folks who are already using it. Slight downside is that not everyone was using it with fidelity, going back to one of the first glows that this year, SU-wide, everyone will use this with fidelity, and then we'll be able to sort of make adjustments moving forward. Many of the grows are also pretty similar. It has a digital presentation point that the teachers can use. The technology of that was a little wonky to get used to at first, but the teachers presenting visually on the screens, the materials the students are going to work with in the workbooks is pretty helpful. End of day exit tickets are sort of very helpful for quick dipsticks of student understanding. With the technology piece, it's also pretty challenging for substitute teachers. And just sort of as an extra piece on the side, with a couple of the teachers we support being brand new first year teachers, doing all of CKLA for the first time and all of Eureka for the first time has been a pretty steep hill to climb. But I'm in 3-5 classrooms supporting math, like Jess said, some push into the classroom supporting teachers, supporting students in class, and some pull out based on classroom data and STAR test data from earlier in the fall. Any particular questions?
Okay, so is this your first year?
This is my first year with Windsor, yes.
Okay. And where were you previously?
I taught 4th grade at the White River School for the last 28 years.
Okay, thank you. So the reason I'm asking is I was just wondering if you were within our supervisory union before now or
I was drafted to work at Summer Academy for a couple of summers, but no, this is my first full-time job.
Well, thank you for your feedback on this curriculum. It's really good and important for us to know both the grows and the glows, I guess. Do you find that teachers understand the curriculum?
There's a little bit of technology challenge with the presentation materials, sort of tracking internally in the lesson. For teachers who are familiar with the scope and sequence of 3rd or 5th grade math, this flows pretty neatly. But if you're a brand new teacher in 4th grade, say, you're starting from scratch, and we do a pretty fair amount of support in those areas. Just math curricula tend to spiral, and you'll see a skill early in the year, and you'll spiral away from it and come back. 3rd grade started subtracting with flexible strategy, adding and subtracting strategies under 100, and later in the year that comes back, moving into thousands and larger numbers. So yes, I'd say that the math the teachers are pretty familiar with.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And it's nice to meet you. Anybody else have any questions?
Have the students, switched easily to this? Are they doing well?
We're coming up on the second window of the STAR testing just into the beginning of the year, and we're looking forward to comparing data from the start of the year to now. Exit ticket pieces and inside of the unit quizzes, students seem to be doing well. One of the challenges is likewise the time and the pacing, having not taught these units before. So we don't have a lot of end of unit assessments to look at. We're looking mostly at quiz data and end of class data. But yes, the students are doing well.
Is it possible to finish the whole thing in a year?
That's going to be pretty challenging. That's challenging for all curricula, always. And for right now, it does not look like it. Some of the early units are taking longer than one class session, so there'll be a bit of a squeeze at the end of the year. But that's not unusual, even with a curriculum that you've worked with over the course of several years.
Thank you.
Not to jump on Mike's time, but we also were teaching Eureka Math before. So Eureka Squared is just kind of their new version of it.
Yeah.
So it's not as big of a change for our students as the reading curriculum.
Right.
I have a pretty, for both of you actually, it's a general and kind of subjective question, but do you think that with these, I know Eureka is obviously not brand new, as you said, do you think that with a little bit of time, like a couple more years of letting this implementation kind of sink in, we'll get used to how it's delivered, do you foresee there being a steep hill to climb to do some of the modifications and adjustments you need to be able to get all of the really crucial parts of it into a school year, or is that something that's a little bit more of a terminal challenge with either of these curriculum?
Want me to go?
Yeah, go first, Jess.
Okay, so I think with all curriculums, it's definitely going to take time. So in 3 or 5 years, I think we'll be in a great place, which is usually when curriculum changes. So give it 5 years and then curriculum will change. So I think the kindergartners are going to have the best bet, right? Because they don't know anything different. This is the curriculum that they're teaching. So there is only a small gap to fill. Whereas like the 5th graders then going into middle school have a lot larger of a gap, or 3rd graders moving up will do better. So I think, yeah, of course, with time, it'll be better. And the more we can implement our MTSS process in tier 1 instruction is what should kind of fill those gaps. But they're definitely, I mean, it'll be a few years, I would say, before.
Can I ask a question? So with those 5th graders, I'm sorry, you're probably hearing me right now. I know. I'm not gonna be done. With those 5th graders, the gap would still be there whether or not we switch curriculum, correct?
Absolutely.
So do you feel that they have a better shot of being prepared under this curriculum?
So my personal and professional opinion is that if you can't teach the phonics, if they don't have a basic understanding of phonics and phonemic awareness, no matter their age, they don't have as great of a shot at all. So we're doing our very best to fill those gaps, especially in the higher kids, because it's not explicitly taught. It's expected that they understand it. So when they move on, when those 5th graders move on to middle school, there's no phonics and phonemic awareness, because that's like tapping out sounds and hearing the sounds in the word, and no 6th grader wants to be working on that. So
it's fair to say that they had the gaps under the old curriculum.
For sure. But I think that the gaps are even more blatant now because there's no time to fill them with the curriculum. And it's not built in there.
So you know that the gaps exist. We also know that those kids need those skills in order to be successful in the middle school. Because forget about high school, if they can't make it in the middle school. Is it possible to look at what, those gaps, those big gaps are, whether it's phonics or whatever, and really come up with some sort of a plan, with the middle school, but I don't know, a teacher or something, and offer those, some intense courses in those areas just to prepare the students, because you don't want to send, you send them on and they're not going to be successful. They're just going to, they're going to just, what's the word I'm looking for?
Struggle.
They're going to not only struggle, but they're going to tune out. And then you're going to talk about behavior issues. You're going to talk about all sort of issues. And it's not that they don't want to be in school. It's just that they don't have the skills, and it's either embarrassing. It's like, I can't do this. So I'm just thinking, how do you say, okay, how can we do something between that elementary before they jump into the middle school? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out. I just know I've seen so many kids
I
tune
think
out.
it's fair. Full disclosure, I have a fifth grader, right, which is why my wheels are turning right now. So I think it's fair to mention that there's almost 50 of them, and they were in 2 classes in first grade, and that's when we shut down because of COVID. So to say anything about like curriculum or anything is really an unfair statement on my part right now when they had all that happen as well.
It's also not a unique Windsor issue. I mean, this is a national issue that we have. The right to read film, I'm sure you guys are aware, but this is a national issue that the kids don't have these skills. And I think we like to say that it's the COVID shutdown that did it. So for that class, for sure, when they missed that explicit instruction, but it's without the explicit instruction, the gaps won't be filled. So yes, I think to answer your question, I don't know if it's for me. I think we are doing that. So with our intervention and MTSS model, that's what we're working on our end. And I know middle school just hired an interventionist. So they're working on that as well. So we're really trying to fill the gaps.
I know it's not easy.
Thank you both. I think we should move on to,
Let's chat, Rob. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
thank you.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
Thank you.
And Mike, and Amber, you're not here, but
Amber's not.
she's not here, but she does, but she's part of the
Karen's here.
team.
Yeah, I think we've got the video going. Do you guys want to see the Leader in Me stuff?
Yes, yep.
Okay, let's let's try it again.
Annalise, I think I've got it working on my end. Do you want me to run it?
Yeah, I can try it again one more time for mine, just because yours, for whatever reason, is up. There's like that one clip that's upside down, and I promise I would never have made an upside down clip.
Okay.
Can you hear it?
Sound? No, no sound.
Okay, we'll go with Jennifer's. That was easy. Go.
At Albert Bridge School, we are teaching students to understand that they are just one piece to a much larger puzzle. Using programs like Responsive Classroom, Collaborative Problem Solving, students set not only individual goals, but whole classroom goals. Students ask themselves if their goals, whether big or small, are SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. This helps them narrow their goals to ones they can find success in achieving. Last year, our school goal allowed students to see the progress as a whole, making sure all students felt they could contribute to the school WIG. This year, our goal is not centered in academics, but in making sure students feel connected in our community.
I'm a part of this community. I belong here. I belong here. I'm cared for. I'm cared for. I'm valued. I'm valued. I'm curious, creative, and caring. I'm curious, creative, and caring. I am a leader. I am a leader. My voice matters. My voice matters.
Our student leadership team has aided in helping us bring more student-based activities to our school throughout our school day. We have used students to model for others how to handle getting food appropriately so no one takes too much.
Nice job. Are you getting anything else? Nice. Are you getting anything else? One egg. Good job.
Students engage in team building activities that help them feel more connected in a community-based way versus in an academic way.
Someone else is going to have to release and grab onto it. So Sadie.
Our school sometimes plays as a whole. This means grades K through 6 will go out onto the playground and play together, which brings forward new learning. This means they can engage together regardless of where they are, and here they're asking great questions as we visit the Vermont Adaptive Ski Program. Students remember their community at large at our Veterans Day celebration and inviting community members to celebrate in our Harvest Festival right before Thanksgiving, where we had many student servers serve dessert to all of our community members who attended. We, of course, have fun with things such as Dance Party, which is run by students. They set up the equipment, and we even have DJ applications out there so that students can learn how to use turntables to be DJs at this time. Our whole school morning meetings allow us to do deeper forms of connections as students are asked questions like, when was there an opportunity for you to be a leader?
When it came to working at math, you need to pick something that wasn't so easy. Raise your hand if you did that. In math. Something that wasn't so easy and stuff with it. Nice job. Go put your hands down. How about when it came to reading something?
We always end our morning meetings with a little bit of a rain stick so students can take a deep breath and find their center before they enter our building for the day. Students from all grades are invited to be a greeter. As students enter the building, everyone says hello by either doing a fist pump, handshake, or any other kind of greeting that is acceptable at this time.
Good morning. You started to eat one. I want to be a leader at ABS because I'm Sadie. I want to be a leader because I like to help people along school. I want to be a leader because I like Peace. Hi, my name is and I want to be the leader of the school so I can do advanced math projects and I want to try to lead the team because I think I can help others and they have Hi, my name is Tyler. I really want to be a leader because
It's also important for our students to understand that there is humor in our mistakes and that it's always fun to have a little spontaneous fun. Whether it's a whole school celebration or just a class celebrating them meeting a goal, we love having fun at Albert Bridge School.
Awesome. Thank you, Annalise, for all that work.
No problem. I'd like to say we don't hold our morning meetings upside down or do side parties. So something went wrong in the conversion. Thank you.
Thank you, Annalise.
Thank you, Annalise.
Okay, we are now on,
Are we in middle school?
flexible pathways, flexible pathways, yeah, and then middle school model.
Kindergarten.
She might need to share her screen.
Hi, Kim. Do you want me to share my screen or are you gonna do it?
No, if you could, I just want to apologize to everybody. I'm actually at Campion Rink. It was my son's home opener tonight for the boys varsity hockey game. So if it's a little funky in the noise, I apologize. I'm trying to be a multitasking mom here for a couple minutes. You know, you got to make it work, right? Thanks, Christine. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. So while that's loading, I'm going to do things a little bit differently tonight. Generally, I like to share like all of our data and who's doing what, but I have a small video for you tonight, and I did want to share some information about the conference that I went to. I did go to the 10 Years of Act 77 with Tracy, and just wanted to talk about some successes and challenges and some of the takeaways that I had from that conference. So Christine, could you go to the next slide?
I sure can.
Thanks. So just to remind everybody, I'm sure you've seen this pretty much every time I've presented, but when we say flexible pathways, it's not a class. It really refers to a whole bunch of different options that kids can choose from career and technical ed to early college, dual enrollment, online learning, but it also encompasses stuff like work-based learning, community-based learning, things that we call ELOs, which we've talked about several times here at the board. And it can also encompass things like high school completion or alternative programs to get kids to graduation. You can go to the next slide. So I kind of wanted to share a success story. You guys might recognize him. I thought it might be fitting given this really cool opportunity that I heard that you guys talked about at the very beginning. But to connect the fact that Hudson is doing this really cool thing next semester to our Flexible Pathways program, because there was an exemplar. I've had quite a few exemplar students, but the way that Hudson starts this in his freshman year and how he's progressed to where he is now is really what flexible pathways could and should be in a perfect system, or what hypothetically I would love if all kids took advantage of. And they won't, but that's okay. But this is kind of what I'm shooting for. So can you start that, Christine?
Yep.
Hi, Hudson. Can you tell us about all the different flexible pathways that you've done at Windsor High School?
So my freshman year, I did a podcast. I also have done drafting a bill. I did a Harvard course. I did Governor's Institute. And I also have taken many online classes through flexible pathways as well as a dual enrollment class.
What's your most latest flexible pathway?
I'm heading down to Washington, D.C. to become a U.S. Senate page for 6 months, which is crazy, and it's a fully immersive program. I'll go to school down there. I'll live down there. Yeah.
Imagine your education without flexible pathways. What it would have been like, and do you think you would have ended up in this page program if you just had come and done sort of
Absolutely
traditional
not.
schooling?
Absolutely not. I would have not ended up in the page program if I did traditional schooling. Flexible Pathways gives you opportunities that aren't offered in the building. I mean, you can't learn how to write a bill in a school. You can't, I mean, kids are out welding. You can't learn how to do that in schools, at least in our tiny school. But it gives you those real life experiences and allows you to explore things. And my education would be really boring without it, I will say.
What are some real skills that you think you've gotten? How has it benefited you as a person?
Communication skills. You have to communicate a lot while doing these things. I would say just like meeting all these different people through legislation and podcasting is really huge.
What about self-direction? Do you think that's important?
Yes, being able to direct yourself is incredibly important.
Did you have to make a lot of choices?
Yes, and it's not easy.
Do you think more kids should do more flexible pathways?
Absolutely. Everyone has some sort of interest or talent or career that could count towards credit for flexible pathways. I mean, it's literally called flexible pathways. The possibilities are flexible
And endless.
and endless.
Anything else you want to say about flexible pathways?
Do some flexible pathways, guys.
He said he hates hearing his own voice, but I said,
Hudson, can you tell us about all?
I don't need to see it.
Sorry.
oh, that's fine. But I thought it was good just for us to kind of narrow down some of the talking points. And like I said, he's the exemplar, but it's really kind of the model. And you can see the progression from like just starting with a podcast, something that takes a little bit of, it was passion-based, kind of like a passion project, but he was able to then choose things within the realm of political science, which really is, as you guys know, his heart and soul. And from that, he did this bill, but he added in a Harvard class, all the way up to meeting all these people that he exposed them to this really cool PAGE program. And as you heard, he said he probably wouldn't even do it had he not done these other things that sort of were stepping stones to this. So 10 years back, 77, great conference. You can see there's a picture there. I took that picture. We were in the State House, right where that bill, Act 77, took place. And what was really cool is a lot of schools presented. I wish I had Hudson to present there that day, but he had to go to a social studies conference instead. So that's why I wanted his video, because they're going to do it again, and we will share his success stories and hopefully the stories of others. But all of the schools that presented had kids like Hudson that were standing up talking about these really cool things that they did that a lot of other kids don't do, and they do them outside of their traditional classroom sometimes, and sometimes they were connected to actual classes, which was really cool. And from this celebration, there were some breakout sessions. I got to spend an entire breakout session with students and ask them the same sort of questions I asked Hudson, but I also asked them why they thought more students didn't do flexible pathways, and their answer was very interesting, and I'll get to that. But we should be really proud, because my biggest takeaway was that we're doing it. We're doing the thing. We are offering comparable flexible pathway options to many of the schools, and I think that one of the areas in the state, and talking with some of the folks from the AOE, that we have really fully developed that a lot of people are kind of unsure of are the ELOs. And so I've been working with Up for Learning and hopefully some folks at the AOE, and we are going to hopefully try to get some consistency across Vermont. One other thing I saw is that because of local control and because of that big wheel of options around flexible pathways, it doesn't look the same in every school. I mean, it shouldn't look the same because all of our schools are different, but some people just promote dual enrollment. Some people just promote their Hartford Tech Center, as opposed to what we're doing, where we are providing access to all of those opportunities that I shared with you in my first slide, which I think is great because we're going to hit more kids' needs and give them what they need by saying, well, what's best for you? Dual enrollment or an ELO or the Hartford Tech Or is it Val? Is it high school completion? Is that your flexible pathway and that what's going to get you out of school and into a job? So I was really, it was validating, I guess, to hear that we're doing, you know, some really good things here in Windsor and just as good as a lot of the places around Vermont. So that brings me, yep, thanks. To some section challenges. First of all, we're doing it. We're on the right track. According to the celebration, I feel confident that we are doing it to the best of our ability. We have a lot of offerings. There's equitable access. We've dedicated money. The vans that we have make a lot of things possible. Have a burn grant for costs for kids. And I know I've worked with Kate about getting some money set aside for flexible pathways. So I feel like we are continuing to grow and on the right track. You guys have a program director that's really pushing the growth of this program, whereas a lot of schools don't. They either have like a flexible pathways, they have a guidance counselor that's trying to do this in addition to all of the other stuff that they're doing, or maybe just a work-based learning coordinator that tries to do some of the other flexible pathways, or it's kind of scattered about. So I think that's a real plus for our district. I feel like we're really trying to evolve and get better between moving forward with the portrait of the graduate, the proficient work that we're doing at all levels. At the high school, been doing a ton of career exploration. We put in flex time, which is to help kids meet their needs. We have an alternative program. So I feel like all the little changes are really, you know, starting to come together to make the system a system where kids are going to access flexible pathways more frequently. And we also have some amazing local resources. Some of the challenges that I've identified in talking with students such as Hudson and other students and our guidance counselors, Christine and Kate, is if you look at Act 77 and Christine, can you just jump forward a slide for a second?
Yeah, I sure can.
Okay. Act 77 actually has 3 pillars. It encompasses flexible pathways, but it also encompasses personalization, and a huge component of that is a POP. And when I say a POP, I mean like a really fully functioning implemented POP. Proficiency-based graduation requirements, meaning your POGs, but also content course proficiencies, and a really deep understanding of proficiency instruction and assessments and grading. And so, as you can see by that sort of interconnecting thing, they kind of support each other. They're interconnected. And lately, since we've done flexible pathways, we've been trying to implement them without those other things really in place. And I know we're on a path to, I know we're working towards it, but where they're so interconnected and where they really support each other, that's one of my challenges, is that our system isn't in place to make it so that all kids are doing the type of exemplar things that you heard that Hudson is doing. We're working on it. We're putting in the leader of these skills, but we're not quite there yet. Christine, can you go back one slide?
Yep.
So again, POG proficiencies, you know, the portrait of a graduate, we have them. We have great posters, but we haven't figured out how to say that our students are going to graduate and demonstrate that they've met them and how we're assessing them. And in a lot of schools, what they're doing are portfolios, and flexible pathways are actually a really big piece of those graduation proficiencies, meeting them and demonstrating them. And that portfolio to that exit portfolio that they would give on their senior year. Another challenge is the flexible pathways requirement. I know we got rid of it a few years ago, and I wish I was kind of part of that conversation, because what we were doing wasn't working. We were basically checking a box. But now we kind of went to the very opposite end of the spectrum, where kids don't have to do it. And when I was at the Act 77 conference, when talking to all the students, they're like, what do you think would get more kids to do it? And they were like, well, kids are kids. And if we don't have it connected to something that's meaningful or something that they have to do, then they're going to take the easy way out and probably not do it unless there's one of a superstar like Hudson. So I think we need to rethink that requirement, and not the way it was before, but you know, how is it connected to capstone in our STEM program and our portrait of a graduate? And could we have those choices, you know, of a capstone, of a junior seminar, of whatever, be the places that kids choose to demonstrate where they've met those portrait of a graduate proficiencies? So I think as we can continue to have these conversations and grow how we're going to assess our POGs, how we're going to have our seniors demonstrate that we've met them, flexible pathways will continue to be more of an integral part of student success. That also goes for self-directed learning. We're sort of in the beginning stages of, you know, voice and choice and building that capacity for kids to be self-directed and be motivated and be in charge of their learning. And I feel like as those kids start to come up, you know, and as we figure out some of these other things, proficiencies and the PLP and our POGs, then kids will have more of a reason to do more of the really great things that are available to them, because they just don't take advantage of them the way that I wish that they did, and the way that you see students like Hudson taking advantage of them. And of course, some of the old systems at the high school, again, when I think of challenges, the course registrations, being a small school, limited time in their schedule, still trying to work those out. But I think the good thing and the successes are, is, you know, I work with our guidance counselors very closely, and we're still trying to make it better every year, even though we're not quite there yet. So that's kind of where I wanted to land for tonight. Does anyone have any questions?
I do. I do. That was awesome. That information was so good. And at the end of your presentation, you talked about capstone programs, and I know that the students are required junior year to present capstone presentation. Senior year. So I'm wondering if rather than waiting until their senior year to present the capstone, if we can capture, or we can require that students start doing a capstone maybe in their freshman year. At the end of that year, we already are asking them to identify career pathway, and it's kind of focusing them on the fact that they don't do this in their senior year, it's required now. And then if you require it again in their sophomore year, and in their junior year, and their senior year, by year 4, I mean, they'll be, you know, a Hudson, you know, they'll have it together because they've been doing it. They've been asked to do it. I think what that also does is it really allows students to identify something that they are interested in and that they can work towards. And it doesn't need to be a straight academic curriculum, but it can be something different. But it gives them option. It gives them freedom to say, I don't want to focus on the same thing that Hudson focuses on, and I have that opportunity here to do that. I think that would bring students in and say, okay, I need to be here for another 4 years, and at least I'll be able to focus on something something that I want to do over the next 4 years, in addition to something that's required of me. I don't know, but to wait until your senior year to kind of bring it all together is, I don't know if we can keep them that long.
Yeah, and I'm not sure the capstone we have structured now is doing kind of what you're saying. I mean, what a lot of schools, a few years ago, before COVID, I visited Hazen and Harwood and a few schools that have graduation proficiencies, and they do have, instead of midterms and finals, they have where students present pieces of their PLP that are linked to the portrait of the graduate. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at, is that every year at that time of the year, at least once a year, you're like, okay, I have to do something that, is aside from my content. I have to pass all my classes. Those don't go away. But I have to do something that's a little bit more, a little bit extra, that's reaching me towards those maybe I pick as a freshman one of those graduation competencies that I'm putting something in my PLP, and that's what I'm presenting about. But it allows for what you're saying, those conversations about like, what are you going to do next? And how can we build on this? And is this building towards a passion, or is it building towards a career? And I think that if we could make that portrait of a graduate competencies and portfolio, and like you're saying, less of the midterm and more of that demonstration of learning related to those, like a lot of the schools that are doing these really well, I agree. I think we'll have kids choosing more of those things. I think there's quite a few schools that do it, variations of that too, but I think something to that effect, I agree with you, for sure.
I have a question about the grant money, the dedicated money for it. Has there been any instances where a student picks something and there's not enough money to cover it, or has that been not an issue?
So the problem isn't the lack of money, it's the system in place to access the money.
It reimburses.
It reimburses.
Okay.
And that's not ideal at all.
Not
necessarily equitable.
How can we fix that? What can we change?
The budget.
No, the money's there. The money is there. It's the ability to access it quickly for him. It's kind of Kim's put out his own money, her own money, government Hudson's put out his own money. The ideal scenario, I'm afraid, I'm so afraid to say this without it here. The ideal scenario would be that Kim had a credit card.
Yeah, it's true, because the rest of the world doesn't function on purchase orders. And so what the sticky widget has been is even when we have money, I wrote a burn grant. So we have that sort of, I guess you'd call it a petty fund. But still parents need to pay up front, and we'll only reimburse them. And that's been a limiting factor for people. So, and I can't give, like we had a student that wanted to take courses to get certified in exercise science. And we've had a few things. Almost everybody that I would interface with requires a credit card and needs to pay up front, whether it's camps, any of those things. So it's been a conversation. I wrote the grant to sort of circumvent what you had to do with the business office. And I've been able to have parents work. I've worked with places like Governor's Institute to let parents pay over time, and then we reimburse them. We have sent places checks. A few places do send checks, but I think just getting access to the money in a way that works for the people that would attend conferences and those sorts of things that the kids would want to do is definitely been a little bit of a sticky widget.
I hold on a second. I just want to ask a couple questions first. Kim, I remember when it first came out and you worked really hard on getting kind of tracks put together.
Somewhat, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Kind of academic tracks that would include flexible pathways.
Yep.
When did the requirement die? What happened to the requirement?
I think it was the year before last, and I'm going to kick that question back to you because I wasn't part of those conversations, which is a little frustrating.
Always a conversation during leadership team. Prior to that, we had argued amongst ourselves in the leadership team of like, how can the flexible pathways be a requirement? And then during COVID, when we had to cut requirements, we cut a half of PE and flexible pathways as a requirement.
And what happened to the requirement of the BLPs?
So that is,
there's just I thought those were
It's still there, but the problem that we ran into was we had one counselor. We had Jeff, that was it. No middle school counselor, no second high school counselor. And something had to take a back seat during that time, but it is back in the forefront. And Jess is doing a really nice job. I asked her a question of the day about a kid who needed a credit, and she was like, well, if you look at their PLP, they'll be able to get their credit through that. So it's happening.
Okay, and, so just to clarify, flexible pathways opens up for students in what grade?
Technically ninth, but we had a request, in eighth this year and we did it.
Okay, and how are students made aware of flexible pathways?
So that's where we need to do a better job with the scheduling, and Kim and I have been talking about that. About starting with our schedule this January to get that swarm time longer, which is our kind of flex time where students can access things. They're made aware of it through Kim does a presentation usually at 2:10 through the year. Kim will do a presentation in this room and invite different classes in, different grade levels in to talk about it. We could get enthusiasm around it if we had more examples of what we can do, right? And how we can start it on a smaller basis rather than moving to DC. So,
Is it possible, because you make sure that parents get the schedule for students, is it possible for that sort of information to get out to parents also so that they know?
yeah, it goes out.
Okay.
I'm sitting here, making a presentation. One of the thoughts I had is that a lot of people, especially freshmen, are afraid to do something alone. You know, you're the, we can do a flexible pathway. Sorry. If we could do a flexible pathway, almost like mini class, like a mini capstone, and kids could do something. Kids could explore it in a group rather than alone. I think we get to get more, but
That sounds like a great idea, Kim.
when we get into a budget conversation, one impact we have of doing the planning room was that it allowed more time for me to do my actual job. And with that comes weekly meetings with Kim, which I've been internally grateful for. I put it out every week or every month who wants just a weekly meeting that allows us to have a conversation. That's why she said we have these challenges and we're working on them. Like she means that because we are working on them because we have the time. Particularly the self-determined learning and the proficiency rating. We're finally able to move forward with that because we put all these other systems in place this year.
And, okay, thank you. Yes,
Outside of Hudson, how many students are actually, accessing the flexible pathway right now in this year?
Well, the number's high, but the majority would be an online class or a dual enrollment. The tech center counts as a flexible pathway. So we count all the definitions that Kim put out there.
So you can,
100%.
part of it is if you just want to take another course that Windsor doesn't offer, you can go through.
that was the whole idea of the law in the first place, was for small schools and for schools in rural areas that can't afford to offer all kinds of stuff. This is a way
So my question still is, percentage wise,
My best guess would be 50%, maybe a little bit more. We're always looking for mentors, Steve, if you want to get involved.
oh yeah, I got a lot to teach.
But you gotta remember, like, that counts Harper Tech Center. That counts every kid who's accessing dual enrollment, everyone who's taking an online class.
It's probably.
There's very few that go outside of those options. That percentage would be tiny.
Thank you.
What do we suppose are the odds of there at some point being a flexible pathways requirement reinstated? And if there were, how might it look different? So I'm hearing it's valuable, and I'm hearing that we want more students to do it. I also, understand not every student, I get it. Like if students offered the option of like, you can just kind of like put your nose down and do what you need to do and not have to worry about these other variables. Like I am, not every student is going to want to pick up the ball and run with it that way. And that's in no way a qualitative judgment. I mean, for some students, just going straight forward and not the perception of like not accessing these things that could be like very psychologically safe for them. I do think that maybe having that requirement and like giving just a little bit of push, even if it's not going too far outside of that comfort zone, could be helpful. I mean, I think that this presentation demonstrates a lot of the value of that. But I also understand, there's a reason why there is not that requirement anymore.
There's also a social draw to school. Right?
Oh, of course.
A lot more. A lot of kids come to school for the social reasons of it, and a lot of the flexible pathways that they have seen as examples take them out of that environment. And I think that a lot of kids don't want to do that.
Some
It's
students,
hard.
some students feel very successful with the options they
That
have,
they
and
have,
not
yeah.
the flexible pathway. Students who want to be a Spanish major, they have all Spanish 1 through 4 and you take all of those.
And I wanted to recognize that
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what I didn't express that clearly, but there may just be options here that students feel enriched and completely happy with, which is, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, right. That's definitely part of the case, but
Yeah.
I don't know, as I was sitting here listening to Kim, we were brainstorming the thought of doing it, introducing it freshman year. Our goal next year for our schedule is to build that flexible time longer so that we can offer more during that time. And it's only 17 minutes. I do think that if in freshman year, this was kind of rolled out into small groups, that it would have more buy-in.
Yeah, I wonder, not to get too good at brainstorming right here, right now, but I wonder if providing some examples or aspirational examples that haven't happened yet, where maybe you and some of your friends could do a project together. You could be engaged in the same kind of learning if you have common interests. And highlighting that. I mean, as long as it isn't a requirement, there's a certain amount of selling of the program that you have to do, right? So I'll be, I certainly understand the constraints around doing that. And I think it's an exciting, there's a lot of exciting opportunities here. It's fantastic just to hear about the depth and breadth of what there is, this guy very much included. So I'll be interested to hear where that goes.
Yeah.
I
I
hope
also
to see.
think a lot of kids do stuff and don't do it under the lens of flexible pathways, right? So they do it just because they love it and it's something that they want to do.
We almost need to like go follow kids from Hartford or wherever that are doing these things that may be more engaged to students and bring them in to present to Windsor students freshman year. Even if it's a slideshow that you use for the next 20 years of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of the technical centers, they at first only offered classes to juniors and seniors. And one of the things they did was decided to offer this mini class to your 9th graders, freshman year. It's a much shorter version of what you would be doing in building and construction or in some of the other classes. And at that point, it just blew open those classes. All of a sudden, all of the kids wanted to take them. So you're right. I mean, if you can get kids that can stay with a group, and just go around, and just expose them to, it's a great way to like bring them in, to expose them.
I just have a question. I know you're working a lot on the March intensives and having different things. Do you feel like some of those topics might be kind of brought into opening the kids up to having these pathways?
I do. We worked really, Jeff Beachy worked really hard on getting improving March intensives and bringing it back to the original glory or original intention was supposed to be. And through that, we did get a lot of community involvement this year, more so than other years. And even reached out to like the elementary school and said, hey, we have this idea for March intensive that would involve doing some work around the elementary school. So So it will be interesting to me to see what this year's, what comes out of this year's marching orders.
I just have one more kind of general comment. I mean, what's very clear is that there's a lot of time and effort going into this program. And one thing that Kim said, and I greatly appreciate the amount of detail that you gave in your presentation, Kim, but the fact that we are resourcing this with a coordinator is really, really important. And I mean, I think that demonstrates again what the importance is of highlighting this program, even if maybe we're not seeing the participation that we'd like to. To me, that lays the groundwork to see that participation. So I mean, despite the challenges you're talking about, I'm excited to see this going. I'm excited to see what students are going to do with it. And clearly it's had an impact on a lot of our learners to date. So yeah, thank you to all of you for making this happen in the way that it's happening.
So when you tell students about it, is it, do they understand that it's wide open, or do they? I'm just thinking about my kid and their friends, who, when I've asked them, so a small sample, but about 10 people who are freshmen, all think that it's not open to them until junior year.
No. It might be worth, one of the changes we made with the schedule this year is that we took classes and we made them semester classes. Typically kids are more successful in a shorter amount of time. So that and it also leaves us flexibility for the second semester to make changes that aren't working. So we might, Kim's also meeting because she might come in. We might have the opportunity to meet with those freshmen in December. I know like with our IDL class, we just sent out a survey to those kids saying, hey, what changes do we need to make? What were you hoping for in this program that you're not getting? It might be worth sending that out to all freshmen saying, hey, what were you hoping from Windsor High School that you're not getting? Especially changes we can make right in the second semester.
So I was like, y'all could all take a class at the Center for Cartoon Studies. You could go all together and have it be. And they were really adamantly insistent that that's not a possibility. Not that they would take a class at Center for Cartoon Studies, but
right.
You know. Yeah. So I just wondered. Kim, is Kim still on?
No, her son had his like debut.
Yeah. Well, Kim, thank you very much, and thank you. I was actually really appreciate hearing how it's moving on.
Annalise, have a question?
That's it, really.
I have to do an algebra midterm tonight. Let's do tomorrow. So I apologize. I just do early.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Godspeed.
Yeah.
Oh, Annalise, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Oh, that's okay. I just wanted to say that I think the flexible pathways is like a really awesome program for our high school students to have. I think anytime that you can have intrinsic motivation to have a student complete a project, it's really important. It would be really cool to see though in the future if there's ways to connect like some of our local trades. So I know like there's construction outfits and things like that, and they talk about having new people come into the workforce and like having not a clue. And so that might be a great motivation for kids who really do want to go and do these jobs when they get out of high school. And then additionally, it's becoming harder and harder to motivate kids to learn things. And so when you can provide an outlet that like captures them, you've got to go with it.
Yeah, the vocational connection I think is really interesting. I think the last time Kim presented on this, that had come up because I know just like thinking about all of the different industries that we have in town. I mean, you know, there's.
They've been doing a really nice job with the work study, like investigation. Why can't I think of the right word? Explorations around town. And I think we have something like we have 5 sophomore staff at the tech center, and I think we have 40 who want to go visit it this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. And are there any other? Oh, the middle school one. It's part of the admin report. I'll pull that up if that's okay. Oh, yeah. Share this. Share this time. It's for. The advisor. Okay, you ready? Yeah.
So our big ideas tonight are Jen and I touching base on the Mount Middle School model collaboration, algebra data, and family engagement. Jen, you're up first.
So Albert Bridge School, just some of the things that have happened recently since our last meeting. We've had our community dinner harvest festival, which some of you were able to join. It was fantastic to see so many people come out. Our SKIP, which is our parent organization, has got the ice rink set up and they're preparing for a holiday shop. We have our student lighthouse team up and running and meeting, which is really pretty exciting. Even though they're young, they still have a ton of energy and insight. I'll come back to collaborative problem solving in a minute. We've done some recent field trips involving understanding some of our science, particularly around human body. So some of our classes went to Vermont Adaptive and actually got to see a longtime community member who's worked with our school, Laura Farrell there, who started Vermont Adaptive years and years ago. So it was great to have that kind of extended connection over at PICO. We have did some work with VINS. We had some classes go over there as a part of their trying to engage more with the science content, and some walking field trips that have just been wonderful around town. One of the challenges we're working with right now is how do we meet for all of our curriculum, particularly when it comes to multi-age. But I want to share in the pictures here. We've got some of our students who just need some more ability to make math more meaningful for them and are moving very quickly compared to the rest of their peers. So they're actually working on model trains and ratio proportions, and then they're doing some research on the geography of the area and going to start working on creating kind of the regional train systems that we're moving through over time, building on things like even our rail trails, building local landmarks on trails. So for example, Windsor Station is the first thing that they're going to work on. They're actually developing the skills for scaling. We have community members helping us with that, as well as community members who donated all this stuff, which is amazing, and got it up and running. Kids are learning about the basics of engineering, and we talked today about one of the kids talking about how to fix a light bulb, like actually rewiring a light bulb, and what a great skill, right? So that's kind of coming out of that process. The goal is for them to then become teachers of others as they're becoming skilled in building and understanding the process. We have our upcoming winter concert coming up and our winter solstice coming up. So collaborative problem solving. Christine, okay, if I quickly just switch screens?
Yeah.
Because I want to share, I want to share what our collaborative problem solving work is moving towards. We've been working with a grant through Mount Hospital. We have some brochures, and they've been funding a lot of the professional development around collaborative problem solving. And recently we finished just a quick blurb that the goal is so it could be social media oriented. I just want to share that with you because I think it really speaks to where we've been for a very long time, 11 years now in this supervisory union. We've been embedding and practicing and getting better at making collaborative problem solving an anchor for how we're addressing things. So I just want to share that with you.
Some children and young adults struggle with challenging behaviors that hold them back from their full potential. It's not that the kids lack the will to do well. They need the skills to do well. Collaborative problem solving, or CPS, is...
Again. Sorry.
Some children and young adults struggle with challenging behaviors that hold them back from their full potential. It's not that the kids lack the will to do well. They need the skills to do well. Collaborative problem solving, or CPS, is an effective, evidence-based approach that is changing lives in Windsor area schools, in our communities, and at home. And it's guided by a simple philosophy: kids do well if they can. Developed and owned by Think Kids, a program based in the Department of Psychiatry at Massachusetts General Hospital, the CPS method teaches young people skills like flexibility and adaptability, tolerance for frustration, and problem-solving techniques. The collaborative problem-solving approach is getting results and is helping kids and adults to build more constructive, understanding relationships together. It starts with adults identifying what triggers challenging behavior, then building the skills with kids to make real, lasting change. Learn more and see how collaborative problem-solving can change life for you at thinkkids.org.
Okay, so
Is that one of our is that one of our I didn't know that. It's a really good one.
we just made it. We just made it. So you guys will first preview it outside of Christine and Angie.
Oh, okay.
Release. So we happen to have, so one of the questions is like, what's the value added of us being merged and things like that? You know, one of the values, it's hard to pinpoint what it really is. But, you know, collaborative problem solving, we brought this in around 11, 10 years ago, started really working on that, understanding that this has a huge impact on the future of children when we are able to better understand and more effectively intervene to help them develop skills versus just compliance. And, you know, Annalise and I are 2 of the 7 certified CPS people in the state of Vermont. We do work within our community. We do work within our schools. We do work, you know, across state lines just to help bring this forward. And so it's not exactly savings that you might say, but I think it's value added, and one way to maybe reframe our thinking on just the impact that we have when we work together. So just want to put that out there. All right. Thanks, Jeff. I'll pass that on. I think, Sergio, you're up. No. Yep.
I am, yeah. Thanks, Jennifer. Windsor Elementary, got a couple exciting things coming up. As Colleen mentioned, one of our big themes this year, one of our big rocks is family engagement. So we've been tracking and trying to bring in as many of our families in engagement and engage them in all the things that we do here at Windsor. Concerts to conferences to curriculum nights and so on and so forth. So it's been a big push of ours this year, and in that spirit we have 2 events coming up this week, one tomorrow night. It's our winter concert, 6 p.m. in the theater. Looking forward to a packed house. Last year it was standing room only, so hoping to repeat some sort of performance like that again. That was very cool. And then Wednesday we have I think, and maybe Jesse and some of the other folks in the room would have to remind me exactly because it predates me a little, but bringing back a tradition from Windsor of past with our luncheon with a loved one. So a winter themed meal to bring families in and have them share a meal with our students in our school community during the school day. We're doing 2 seatings. One is the elementary school and then the middle school. With Colleen and her team. So we're very much looking forward to that and bringing folks back in for a meal during the school day. We have been trying to take numbers to sort of see how we're doing and testing various different ways that we're getting out the word to families. And I think so far we found sort of a combination of things, but looking more
Close to 100 RSVPs for families to be here on Wednesday.
Right. Coming on the heels of, I think it was 90 point something fall conference participation a little bit earlier this year. So pretty excited about that and looking forward to bringing our families into the mix more. Long-standing research has always told us that the more you involve families, the better students do. So if we're looking for student outcomes here, the more we bring in and partner with our families, the better for our kids, and that's ultimately what we're looking for. So a great thing there. Very exciting. Last week, we had, at the beginning of this year, started morning meetings to bring our community together with a short news segment, announcements of the day, some Leader in Me things, a few odds and ends to sort of bring us all together with one message to start the day, with the goal being this meeting being taken over by students. So that happened last week, and I have been replaced. So it goes. I offered to stay in there, and Ms. Mayfield's class last week told me I was not needed. So what a great thing. So fifth grade is currently taking over our morning meeting. That's broadcast to the whole school. And then it'll go through the grades, and I'll fill in a few here and there when we have some funny gaps around vacations, but that's really, really exciting. And our bigger, I thought I'd throw a little bit of a longer term goal in here. We're getting ready for student-led conferences a little bit later on this spring. So it's in line with our Leader and Me work. Jesse and Amber and Paige are part of our Lighthouse team, along with many other folks, and are really leading this work, doing some awesome things in our school to help increase student voice and choice and put our students behind the wheel. And it's been awesome.
Yeah, I go together. High school and middle school winter concert is Wednesday at 6 p.m. We had our first play, which most people are at. It was a murder mystery, and it was a nice debut for Lauren, who was able to show her own style, but at the same time, she welcomed back Julie as her mentor. And that's just how we do things at Windsor, right? We're just kind to each other. And so that was nice to see. We've talked a lot about it. Hudson, I want to tell my report, but also I want to mention a second student, Brianna Barton, who, this is a really big deal. She was chosen as an inaugural member of the NFHS, which is National Federation of High School Student Advisory Council. There's only 16 students in the nation, and it was a rigorous application process, and Bria will be going to Indiana to take part in this. That's another example of something that could easily be a flexible pathway, but she's just doing it, right? She's not drawing it in. I have already talked to one of these students, and I'm going to talk to the second one because I like to be thoughtful that the focus always remains on the student, and the celebration is not about school. So we will be planning celebrations, but in conjunction with what the students' wants and comfort levels are. So stay tuned for that. We've made it one of our goals, which I also think will help flexible pathways, is to bring kids more opportunities and to bring more opportunities in. I think that's also part of the problem is the lack of exposure to what possibilities are. So when people are reaching out, and this time it was the VPA who reached out, that like bring in choices matter. And that's around making safe choices, especially on the road, which I don't know how many of you have a kid with a license, but I feel like I have 100 kids with a license, and I hate everything about it. So they are coming in to talk about safer choices in the road, but it's real interactive. They've been in, I don't know if you've been to any of the playoff games, they've been set up on the side, and they have video games and the drum goggles and all that other stuff. So they'll be here this week. I did see on the beginning of the big ideas was the algebra data. Yes, here. And I didn't know if I was supposed to be presenting that or if that was going in the middle school. But are you doing this in your report and I'm just talking? No, right now I just want to So I know that came up at the SU board meeting and that we've been talking about it a lot here in school. But sometimes when you pause and actually look at the data, you think, oh, I might have been a tiny bit of an overreaction there, or now we have some more information, which makes this problem easier to solve. So right here is our data about all our freshmen. So if you were in algebra or geometry, that means you're currently where you need to be, or you are above where you need to be, and that's 32 out of the 58. Foundations is still a strong base, and sometimes at the end of that, Tammy's great. I don't know if any of you have ever met Tammy, but she rolls up her sleeves and she works. And sometimes at the end of foundation, she says, hey, here's the data I have. This kid's getting a full algebra credit because that's what they have demonstrated. But what's interesting about that data is out of those 16 students, 13 did not come through Windsor school system. So they either transferred in or a sending school, and it's a sending school that makes the choice, that makes the recommendation of what algebra class that is. So that piece of data then opens up a ton more questions, right? Are we just not attracting the average student to Windsor, which I've heard before that Windsor's really good for the really high students and the really low students, but we sometimes miss the middle of the road. I don't think that's true, but I know that rumor is out there. So are we not attracting that student from our sending school? Is there some advantage to being in Windsor school system straight through the start? I don't know the answer to that question, but just sitting down and getting the data together allows us to be able to explore what we can do to improve. And now that we've broken the classes down into semesters, is there an opportunity to move kids into algebra at the start of the second semester? And that is my presentation.
That's good context.
Yeah, I was so sick at that last meeting and I just could not get there. And then I was like, I have this information that would probably be useful.
It does paint a more complete picture of what those numbers actually say.
Right, that sounds way different, and we have too many kids not ready for algebra. That it's a totally different picture.
So our middle school model that we've been working toward for the last year, 2 years, and Jennifer and I put this together along with our teams, the teachers here at Windsor and Miss Cindy at Albert Bridge, 6th grade. And we reviewed all the things that we're doing together. This is a short list. I think there's more, but some of the big points is that all of our middle school teachers are working as a team when we have our professional development days throughout the SU. They are preparing for everything together, like the common ones, our Leader in Me, our advisory program, our student-led conferences. Those are things that the Windsor teachers and Albert Bridge, Miss Cindy are doing together. With Leader in Me, similar to what Sergio shared in the elementary school, Mr. Pooler is our lighthouse leader here, and our students are now taking over, working on creating the advisory slides and putting pieces in and taking over. For the first 3 months, the teachers created the daily slides, and now the students have, I think, prepared at least 4 weeks for slides right now, and they're ready to move along when we come back in January and just keep plugging away at having different groups in the middle school and in our 7th period clubs participate in adding more to those advisory slides, the things that we all feel we need to be aware of, like theme months, and our equity group who had their meeting here today with Ms. Price, some of the things that they want to put into the slides for some of our anti-racism and anti-bullying pieces. So we're all doing Leader in Me together. We all worked very hard at the last, both last 2 in-service days together. We did some scaffolding for what we want our students to have for that spring student-led conference, what all of our students need to have, and then just the other day when we were together for the half day, our teachers did some more planning and scaffolding and helping the kids look at their PLPs for their conferences. And some students were struggling with the PLP design, so we do have some options for some PLPs that are more user-friendly for students. So they have some options on how to present that, and just kind of getting them ready for doing invitations and scripting and how they're getting all their work together for their conferences coming up. Next thing we're all doing together, which we just did at our last in-service meeting, was our math teachers were doing their curriculum alignment, and all the middle school teachers are doing their middle school curriculum mapping. We did those along with Angie Ledoux on our in-service days. And we are offering more student choices for our 6th and 7th periods at the end of the day. Ms. Richter, our school counselor, has reached out to, I believe, Jennifer and maybe Ms. Cindy on what we are going to be offering in the 2nd semester. We've had a couple of our Albert Bridge students
here at Windsor for the end of the day to do some band, some other classes, and we will have more options for second semester. And some of those could include like, it could include a whole Mount Scottney Lighthouse team where all the kids are making the slides together. So that is in the works, as well as Ms. Richter helping set up a shadow days, a few of the shadow days in the spring for the sixth graders from Albert Bridge to be here with us. So that's the student choices and the shadow days, yeah. And that is a picture of our most recent students of the month in November.
And then we want to, go ahead, sorry.
No, it sounds like your all of the middle school teachers are meeting on a.
All of the middle school teachers, all of the Windsor teachers and Miss Cindy. Sometimes Angie will have the whole SU meeting, but we usually like break out into teams, and Miss Cindy always joins our team. So we talk about how we're doing things together because sometimes they can be here with us. So we're all doing the Leader in Me work, all the student-led conference work, the curriculum alignment, yeah, all of those together.
What is, we just have some questions for you guys moving forward for you to think about. You don't have to have answers now, but we're curious from you all. So one of our goals is to help with the intentional collaboration. As Colleen mentioned, Mary's reaching out to collaborate with our team over at Albert Bridge School. But some of the things we want to know from you is like, what would you want to see for this? What are some of the barriers that you think are worth going to the town and saying, hey, this takes money, or this is going to require a lot of time? And so what are we going to ask teachers not to do in order to do that, as well as students? And then do you see structures that might help us meet that vision? So just things for you guys to think about at some point. Maybe you can share back with us if you have ideas about kind of next steps in this collaboration process.
One of the things that Ms. Price has been doing with about 20% of our middle schoolers came out to be a part of our anti-bullying diversity leadership team, and they want to have more of this in the advisory. They're looking to do posters and bulletin boards. I have all of it is up here behind Megan on the wall. They're preparing some read alouds for kids in the elementary school, and they're also, as Jen already talked about, collaborative problem solving. They're going to do some training to maybe do some of that collaborative problem solving with younger kids on the playground. They're very invested right now to help with that. So we want to keep that going. And one of the things that Ms. Price wants to do, Tracy wants to do, is anything that she's working on with any of the schools that's going well, she wants to start drawing it bigger to the whole SU. So if something's working here, she heard of something that's working at Weathersfield, she wants to bring it into all the schools. So there's another connection to all of our middle schools as well. Go ahead.
What is curriculum mapping?
So that is our teams, not our CKELA in the K through 5, and not the Eureka Squared curriculums, but all the other curriculums that we are making sure everybody has that are not canned curriculum, that we call them when you buy them, but our science and our social studies, so that we are showing this is exactly as a team. They're all writing. So the Weathersfield teachers, the Windsor teachers, the Heartland teachers, Miss Cindy, we're all showing like all the science lessons that they're doing. Here are all the units we're doing in the year. Here are all the standards we're hitting. These are the themes of that unit, and this is how we're assessing them. So they might be, because it's not a canned curriculum, there might be a few that are off from Weathersfield to Heartland to Windsor to Albert Bridge. So Angie is compiling all that and doing all that work together with the teams so that we have a cohesive agreement on what the map looks like to show that this isn't Eureka Square, but this is what our SU shows for middle school curriculum mapping.
So I have talked with Christine and Angie about a couple of concerns that I've had about the middle school model, but specifically about the sixth graders from Albert Bridge transitioning to Windsor. And I wonder whether, there could be more, I wonder whether, there really is a middle school model in the whole district. Whether the middle school is here or whether, I mean, when a year ago, we agreed that before we talked about moving sixth grade to Windsor, we would really give the middle school model a shot. And I wonder what whether that integration is working, with whether it's
Between West Windsor and Windsor.
between West Windsor and Windsor as a middle school model that includes both schools.
Correct. Yeah, and we talked about being intentional about that
Yeah.
work ahead of time, not thinking about it as an afterthought. Which we've started talking about what that looks like, how we structure that so that it is intentional. And that I think having a lead with the school counselors brought in will help develop that over time. But it is, it's Jennifer and Colleen getting together more, which we haven't really built that into our system either, but getting them together to talk about what do we want to do, how are we going to do it, when are we going to do it prior to the school year starting. So
I think part of the thing is that the middle school model is grades 6 through 8. And and when you get to 9th grade, a whole bunch more kids get dumped in because it's high school. My worry is that there isn't really enough valuable time, learning time, that includes all of the sixth graders. So that when they have punctuated interactions with each other, that's not really the same as being part of a middle school. It means that they get to meet other students, but they don't necessarily have any kind of relationship with them. They may have seen them before, but sixth grade is first kind of scaffolding for obviously seventh and 8th grade. But I wonder what scaffolding there is between Albert Bridge and Windsor that will help the sixth graders from Albert Bridge to be successful at Windsor when the Windsor students have already been here for a year.
when the Windsor
6
students have already
years.
been what? Together, connected.
They've already been together.
So intentional.
So I
Opportunities.
mean, and it's fine. If that doesn't happen, that's fine. But let's not call it a middle school model. I mean, we're not truly, it's kids graduating from Albert Bridge and coming over to Windsor, but it's not a middle school model.
Well, that's fine. When I think of the middle school model and what the middle school teachers have to do, I think of Cindy and teachers here all doing similar things. And the leader, me, is a part of their daily routine. And we have not talked about being together to do that because most of our schools spaces have focused on doing that in advisory. And we don't have access to them all day long. So we could definitely discuss how they could be with us more. But the things that we're doing that are the same is definitely our math curriculum is the same. Cindy and Scott and Mary have the same math curriculum. That's the same. We all have the leader in me lessons and habits that are the same and all working toward the same pieces. All of us have to do the middle school curriculum mapping. So when Melissa and Cindy are talking about science,
that to me is part of the middle school model I mean, for us, the leader in me was a huge part of that piece. And I think we can definitely talk about them being with us more. Voice and choice was the other big push in middle school
Is
model.
that the seventh grade, seventh period?
6th and 7th period is when they have their electives and the choice. But the other thing that comes with equity and things like our academic support that Kate had talked about since COVID, and how students have had gaps after COVID. We have, as a whole school, have talked about we are no longer a silo of special education and regular education. We all work together. So another place where we need to be equitable in our school is in our interventions and our enrichments and giving that to all students. It is really hard to say some kids need this intervention. We know that. But having time in the schedule where all students can have that universally, no matter what they need, we call it win time, call it intervention, enrichment. Finding that for everybody is really important. So when you put more of those things that we need into the schedule, sometimes it has to take a little bit of a backseat to a lot of the choices. So trying to balance it all. And right now, we believed that our day with our electives, when we share them with elementary and high school, that the majority of them are in the afternoon, 6th and 7th period. That seems to be a good access point for anybody at Albert Bridge to join us, because the morning and the midday are hard to be together. But we could definitely talk about doing more of that.
Like, I remember when Christine, I think it was last year,
Yeah.
You created 4 dates or 6 dates, I don't remember how many, but where we talked about the middle school model, and you invited parents both from, from all the communities in the supervisory union to come to talk about that. And I know that many people didn't show up, right? Unfortunately, which was, but I think that there are like 3 prongs here. And I really appreciate that at least the teachers are talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But then you do need those other components. You need the parents to be part of that conversation, and you need the children to be, the students to be integrated in some way. And I think that there seems to be a gap there where those 2 areas are, the teachers, which they have enough on their plate, but seem to be working towards that. But it's how are these other components, which are really important to make a middle school model happen. How is that happening? And you're right. I mean, I'm sure that sometimes scheduling allows for it and scheduling doesn't allow for it. So how do you create that sort of environment?
Because even across the SU, our schedules are kind of similar, because we do have to access like almost a third and a third and a third of students from Heartland, Wethersfield, and Windsor who come here for algebra first period. So we even have to like kind of, at the end of the day, have some things that work, because it doesn't, in my opinion, make sense to have a lot of back and forth throughout the SU or in our district throughout the day. We've got to be strategic about making it fit like the way we have Hartford. They have half a day here and half a day there. It wouldn't make sense for them to be there 1, 3, and 7. They do half a day. So we have to look at the beginnings of our day when we have connections across buildings for transportation, and we look at the end of the day, because those seem to be the easiest components to do the transportation, because we have the bus company to help us for at least part of it, at least morning or afternoon. And then we only have to do some of that transportation, the getting back.
Hartford is a good example, because those kids do go in their junior year, and their peers become those students in those tech classes.
Yeah.
In their junior year and in their senior year. At
Even
that point,
if-
they
even some
develop those
sophomores.
relationships, which
Mhm.
which would, if in a if I think the ideal middle school model If that can happen and kids go into the high school, sort of like knowing each other and prepared and, and having all the skills necessary to be successful, that would be the best, but how do you get there?
No, so I think that's the first question, Jen. What do you see for more collaboration? Because it sounds like more points of the kids being together.
Yeah, I think that's important for them to know each other, to have some sort of interaction with each other. That's a place to start.
Yeah, I think if that's a primary goal, then we'd be more intentional about that versus the components of, do we have passion courses? Do we have an advisory? Do we have WIN? Right. So I think thinking about, do we have a Leader in Me Lighthouse team? Right. I think the idea is if we think it's a middle school model that we want these specific components in versus a middle school model where we're looking at sixth grade kind of like almost integrating a part of the day into Windsor. Those are two different approaches, right? And one of the things Colleen and I have talked about is like next semester, is it possible to do 6th and 7th period together, give them both their special and an elective or their passion course. So we're looking at that, but I also think, Mary's brand new with us as a school counselor. We're making sense of like that kind of work of when are the important times for them to be together that sets the stage for them to get the most out of their education both ways. And, one of the things that we often have talked about also is it doesn't have to be just ABS going over to Windsor, right? I mean, there's a lot that Albert Bridge has to offer in our communities. Are there ways to do it in the reverse? It's much more expensive because right now we can essentially take, a van twice and get them over to Windsor versus Mount Scottney. It'll take a bus probably, right, to get the kids over on any given day. So it's a resource labor thing, right? So right now we basically miss somebody for our afternoon because they come drop them off. If we're having them doing it for longer, do we need staff coming with them, which would make sense that at least Cindy would come with them if it was all sixth grade coming over. So just thinking about some of those logistics based on the values, right? And as Colleen said, like switching, I mean, as soon as our students leave Albert Bridge or Windsor to go to the other building, they're missing 15 minutes of their instructional time, right? It's 15 minutes gone. And if you do that 5 days a week over the course of a year, that's a lot of missed time. Totally okay. We just need to know like that's a value that we're going to say we would rather than miss that so they can have that. And I think that's kind of what we're looking for in terms of like what you guys have for visions. What are some of the goals? Because I do feel like we're moving in a direction where we're getting more capacity for us to do like these passion courses at the end of the day for students to participate. We talked about the second semester being theater, having an option for sixth and seventh grade band. And so really thinking about like that's kind of the passion course option versus intentionally mixing them socially is a different goal, if that makes sense. Right now we've got kids at Albert Bridge School who are studying Russian because that's their passion. So that's a part of the middle school model. It's just not integrating with other students in Windsor. So thinking about just from you guys what you want to see. And again, you don't have to have the answers right now. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm gonna be really quick because I'm cognizant of the time.
I just saw the time.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. And you're all at my superintendent report.
Oh my.
So I'm just gonna quickly, this question came up about software and I did check in with Angie about it. And she, I think, confirmed what we talked about. She does approve on software purchases, so they should go through her. And depending on the request, the expense could be an SU expense or it could come out of your local expense. So she keeps data on that. And if a lot of teachers are asking for the same thing, it makes sense for the SU to take that on. So that's how she's handled it. So that's just to answer that question. I was just gonna shout out the play and Hudson and Brianna. So we have lots of exciting news happening, and but I'm not going to go into that because it was already covered. And just some upcoming events we hope that you will attend, we are doing an all-staff gathering on the 20th, which we did last year for a little celebration, which is lovely. And so that the staff really,
What time is that?
it's 1 to 3, it's the early release day.
Okay.
So we're looking forward to that as well. I know the staff are looking forward to a gathering and, a little break. And I will stop there because I know we have budget to discuss before, the end of the meeting. Does somebody have a share of, and we do that under, items for discussion?
I have a new hire too.
Yep. You want to do it now or do you want to do it?
Items for discussion or now?
I defer.
We present it now. I think they approve it during action items.
About 2 weeks ago, we learned unfortunately that one of our first grade teachers needed to resign for personal reasons. I have her letter here and copies for the board. Folks would like to read it. We did notify our families and have worked to get a group of really amazing guest teachers in there to, as best we can on very, very short notice, get some great folks in to steer the ship into first grade. We did successfully make a hire for that position. That person should start just before the winter holiday. Our hope is that that will be at the beginning of next week. So tonight I'd like to ask, we have made an offer to this person. I'd like to ask for the board to sign off on that and give their approval for Molly Murray. Molly Murray is a dual licensed elementary and special ed teacher. Who is coming to us with a background from Castleton State and some really great student teaching and paraprofessional support staff member experience in local schools and is ready to hit the ground running. So we're hoping to bring her in right away. So we've got just, another week or so to gap again with some really amazing guest teachers who have given up their time to come in and make things go in first grade. So not a great situation. It's personal reasons in there. Nothing having to do with Windsor School, but some unfortunate circumstances for this person. And I think, big kudos to our team for making the impact as little as possible on our students and families. I think folks have really come together to make it fly. I'm very proud of Team Windsor and very thankfully have a hire to take us through the rest of the year. So looking forward to that.
How many students are in that class?
That class has 10 students. Yeah, first grade is sorry. 12. First grade is relatively low numbers. Obviously, they're little, you can see in one of our later slides, but bigger numbers elsewhere.
When does a new person start?
Our hope is that they can start at the middle of next week.
Okay.
Monday or Tuesday. Just they're in the onboarding phase right now.
And what did you say their name was?
Molly Murray.
And in the middle school, we had a resignation at the beginning of the year and we were lucky to have an applicant. The person went through 2 committees as well as student committee and met and accepted the position. And we have just included Miss Paige Daly on our middle school team. And she is within our 8th grade teaching rotation with Mr. Lord and Mr. Meager, because our 8th grade class is our largest class, and that's where our last person was. But our last person had a team teaching role, and Miss Daly does not. Miss Daly is taking on half teaching and half interventionist on our team, which we had no applicants for both of those positions for a while. So we are happy to have had Ms. Ledoux help us make that happen.
That's great news.
Yeah.
Very good news.
Yeah.
On both counts. Thank you.
What is Mr. Wood's name, full name? Is that Andrew?
Mr. Wood? No, this person who we hired in middle school is Miss Daly, Paige Daly.
I thought you mentioned a Wood.
No.
Okay.
Good. All right. Then we're at the budget. What?
You, I can share it, can you? Okay, yeah.
Okay, so when do you need all right. When do you need a vote on this?
We need to vote at the January meeting, and if we need additional meetings, we should
Add more
potentially set
meetings.
an additional January budget meeting. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But, this is the preliminary. I know that the team's been working with Ed up until today, and nothing is firm yet, so.
And I'd like to say, especially taking Mr. Taft's comment into consideration, that letter comes out every December 1st. It's called the December 1st letter. This year it came out on November 30th.
You're talking about what was in the paper about the
Yeah,
potential?
the 18%.
And I understand it isn't.
Every year it scares people, and because every year it is a projection with no even estimates of any kind of profits coming in. There's no balance whatsoever to the budget. And this year and last year, I mean, we took a hit last year because of the, where West Windsor, we took a hit because of the property evaluations, which will have changed this year. But, and that doesn't come out until the end of the year, but also this year, going into this budget season, our equalized pupil weights, the amount that it costs for each student, is being totally redone with this budget. So some districts are going to see a huge increase because they've kind of been getting a pass for the last few years because of the way that our education is financed. It's going to change for those. They're going to have to take up some of the costs. And I think we're going to actually do okay.
We're gonna benefit.
We're going to benefit.
At this time, we don't have all the information yet, but it looks like West Windsor will benefit.
Yeah, so there are a lot of factors still.
Oh, believe me, I've been doing this a long time and I'm well aware of it, but I do read and talk to people and I hope you're right, but, I'm aware and I'll keep doing my
number-
thing with the public that I do. So
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
just wanted to
Hope
clarify
you
that
keep it at 0% perfect.
that number was based almost exclusively on the school districts that have already passed their budgets, sent their budgets up to the state. Obviously, we haven't even heard our budget yet. So the only ones who have passed their budgets, sent their budgets up to the state, and that's what that number was based on. And it didn't have any of the other factors included in it. So,
And there's some new things at play this year as well, in terms of keeping your budget, your per student cost.
Well, I would suggest that you have Ed come in here, because what I've read is the whole way that the education funding is coming from the state, even Ed's gonna have a hard time
No, but we've been
understanding it because
changing.
it's changing.
It's
And-
changing.
And I am hopeful that what Elizabeth says is accurate, because people cannot afford anymore.
Yeah.
And definitely not 15%, so.
No.
Yeah,
I will be,
I agree.
I will be there doing my part to try to
Yeah, and Ed-
understand
Ed will
it
come.
and deal with it.
And we'll invite Ed in January. We'll have more of the information that we need. So this is preliminary data.
I've
And
been
the,
doing this long time, I know.
the CLA doesn't come out until the
And
week of Christmas.
And he doesn't have the tax worksheet yet either. So it's still in the making, but
That
we'll leave
makes
it
me
to-
feel a little
Okay.
better.
We're gonna start our budget meeting, budget presentation. You have it there, Sergio?
Yep.
You can just lead me through it. I'll start this off.
Okay.
So, we base everything we work on through our strategic plan and our portrait of the graduate. One of the, strongest pieces of work we did as a whole community, our portrait of the graduate. We didn't put all the details in here for the strategic plan, because we wanted to
get to the point of what was most important, where we asked for things last year and the impact they made. But we did receive recently from Christine our report card on every place where we're working and achieving and growing and have made it in our strategic plan report card that we are sharing out with our teams. And that is, that helps us stay focused. So our next slide is our enrollments for next year, our proposed estimated enrollments for next year. I'm not going to read them all, but we do have a good number of home study. And we always have the unknowns for our estimated kindergartens and who will be coming in from other schools for tuition students. Okay. And Jen, and so we all plan to talk to you about what we asked for our FY24 and what impacts they made and what our asks are for FY25. Jen?
Okay, so for Albert Bridge, one of the big asks was to go from a 0.6 multi-age teacher to a full-time teacher because our classes were just too big to support multi-age independent classrooms based on best practices. So when we had 7 grades and 5 teachers plus a flex teacher, this year we went to 6 grades and we have no flex teacher. 7 grades, sorry, for 6 teachers and no flex, which is causing some challenges. But we were able to shift people into positions based on kind of their areas of expertise, which is not always easy to do. But we were able to hire a couple of really outstanding upper elementary teachers, which was an area of weakness for us. So we add that, and I think one of the impacts is that we've got more students getting taught at grade level with the new curricula, the way it's laid out. It's really hard to do multi-age. We haven't figured it out yet. And so we're still struggling with that. But if we hadn't added that extra person, we would have like 2 grades basically not getting, or 4 grades getting half the instruction that the current curricula expects. We asked for a permanent sub to support the absences. I don't know if you guys are aware, but staff absences they're pretty significant. We don't have a good pool of subs that can come in on a day's notice. So we asked for a permanent sub, and we were able to find somebody who actually connected with our point for our art position. So we actually have that person in our building full time, so they get to know the culture. They get to know about the students, who the students are. Our students get to know them. So you build that rapport, that relationship. So that's been a nice impact, and that allows the people who are typically pulled, which was either a social emotional team or myself, to try to do more of our job that we're primarily designed to do. So we're being less reactive and more proactive. We also asked for some funding to help support the new curricula, as well as to support a middle school model with somebody who can really come in and get into the curricula at that level, specifically around that. We've been able to do that, as well to support the addition of trade books for both our equity audit and the new curriculum, and to support some co-planning with our interdisciplinary work. So overall, I will say, I said 11 years I've been in this job. This is by far the year that I'm so excited about the team that we have, not only at Albert Bridge, but across Mount Scottney School District, as well as Supervisory Union, because I feel like the vision that we've set 5 years ago, right, with this idea of the portrait of a graduate, I feel like we've been slowly picking away at moving in that direction. And I feel like we're coming very close to realizing the potential that this vision has, because we're funding it with what's needed to make it happen. Pass that on to you, Sergio. I think you're next.
I am. Okay. Windsor Elementary. Wanted to start, as Colleen and Jennifer talked about, with our review of the substantial investment we asked the board and the community to make in Windsor Elementary last year, which was the addition of a 1.0 FTE interventionist / instructional coach, combined with our 2 Title I folks in the same position, have made the Dream Team Suite, which is Jesse Taft, Amber Bennett, and Mike Doogie, who have done a truly remarkable job of moving our school forward. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that investment and where it has taken us and where it will take us. These folks are responsible for helping move and double down on our integration of MTSS processes to better use data to meet the needs of our students, and to absolutely great effect. These folks are also instructional coaches who are supporting instructional practice across our elementary school. As was mentioned a little bit earlier, we have several great new teachers who are coming into the fold here, and these folks are a critical support for those folks and our veteran crew. Really invaluable for supporting curriculum rollout. So this year we have 2 large-scale curriculum rollouts. Those are certainly no small thing, and these folks have been absolutely integral in supporting that rollout so that it makes sense for students, it makes sense for teachers, and is ultimately moving the ball forward for our school. Really excited about that. These folks are also our interventionists through our MTSS process who are working with students in one-on-one small group and push into classes. So these folks have a real up-to-date, in the moment feel for where our students are, where our team is, and what the needs of our school are through an academic and behavioral lens. So these folks are our dream team, no doubt. I would certainly say I was really excited about this model last year. I think there's a really seamless blend of the various roles here that fit together really well to do the work of moving our school forward. I think what has made this model really fly are these 3 people who have gone above and beyond, who have invested countless time to build this airplane while we're flying it, and have done so in a way that I think has really exceeded all of our expectations. So really big shout out to these folks. They're doing amazing work, and I think our team is really flying. So lots of appreciation and appreciation to the community and the board for supporting this investment last year. Certainly we'd like to keep this going because it's great. So that's a big part of this. Our ask for FY25 is, essentially level funding, keeping all our programming in place for the elementary school, and adding for the elementary school a 0.6 FTE foreign language. There is hopefully here in adding this position an opportunity to address equity and opportunity across the SU. Some of our other schools have foreign language, Windsor doesn't at the elementary level. So the hope is that that opportunity will get to come our way to the students. We'd like to make it a 1.0 FTE across Windsor School to share some of that capacity with the middle and high school as needed best for Kate and Colleen in their respective parts of the program, which makes a 1.0 a little bit of an easier position to hire than a parted out position. But the elementary school needs the 0.6. Really excited about this part too. This flex allows, and we haven't put all of these pieces in place. We still have some envisioning work to do that our team will lead. But it allows for the possibility of pulling our library position out of our prep. So that's sort of a schedule function, and allows that person to have a little bit more flexibility in their day to more fully integrate STEAM into our curriculum across the board in the elementary school. A more mature version of this is in place at Wethersfield and Heartland. And so part of the hope here, and again, it'll need to be at Windsor scale, and we'll need to do it with the Windsor team as we're ready to. So I imagine a staged rollout with a lot of intention. It's not something we're just going to flip a switch on. It's got to work for our team. But with this investment, the hope here is to get foreign language and to get a lot more STEAM work in our elementary school. We will at some point possibly be looking at some renovations for our library space to increase the capability of that STEAM lab. So more on that. That would be obviously outside of this budget here today, but that is our ask investment for Windsor Elementary for this next year.
What language are you thinking?
Spanish.
Okay, as opposed to a different language, which you already offer Spanish.
Now,
So why would you not offer another language?
I think a good question. Spanish to help build the program, and because of the ability to share it with the middle and high school, I think keeping that position as a resource to be used more fully across the building is the initial thought. We'd love to build it out to more. I mean, someday along the road, but in sort of building up our runway to our program that's already in place, that's at least the initial thinking. But that's certainly subject to change.
I just think that it's worth thinking about another language. I just know, I hear parents talk about other schools that offer more than one language, and they,
Yeah, I don't disagree at all.
you know,
Yeah.
they're just like, you know, one language, and I hear it, you know, but I know it's costly. I do want to also say that I just am so thankful for the explanation on the interventionist. I think that those grades are the most important. As Josie mentioned, those kids, if they don't develop those skills, you're going to have problems throughout there. You know, they're going to have problems, and you will also. But I think that that is really a time that you want to target and make sure that those kids can move forward with the skills that they need to be successful.
Very much
So
agree.
thank you for explaining what's going on with the interventions.
Yeah, I think it's a really sound investment in, you know, building a really strong foundation for our students as they go through all the grades. And I couldn't agree more on your point. I would love to see much more because currently we have none. So.
At that level, it would be great also. It doesn't matter which language, but yeah, it would be great for
Don't disagree.
exactly elementary kids to have a language option. Thank you.
Yeah.
There was a time where we had 3 Spanish teachers and 1 French teacher at one point in our high school. So, having 1 language teacher now in this building up to the Spanish program that we have, would be definitely another thing that would benefit the middle school model as another place for some choice in 6th and 7th period at the end of the day for our students and students at Albert Bridge. And the other piece is that we heard about flexible pathways. That is another place where our students have opportunities for some of those other language courses online.
Well, yeah, I think
That was
Jennifer-
actually one of the things when they were talking about flexible pathways and the, you know, the benefits to small schools because small schools can't have 5 different language teachers. Language was one of the things. It's like through flexible pathways, a student could learn any language.
Yeah. We actually put in ASL in the high school because so many people requested a flexible pathway. It made more sense to run it as a class.
So we do have a different language. We have American Sign Language.
Yes.
So for the middle school, what we asked for last year was here at Windsor was the middle school counselor. And the impact of having a middle school counselor for the very first time has been unbelievable. Our team has just raved over the hire of Miss Mary Richter and the work she's done. And what we have in her is someone who can focus on the 107 students here. We are very thankful to Mr. McPhillips, who spent a day a week here when we were down to multiple counselors in our building last year. But we are able to see the support in student academic and social emotional needs on a daily basis, regular check-ins and check-outs, part of our MTSS system where Ms. Richter has check-ins with students as a universal plan for many. She is also a teacher of SE curriculum, our social emotional curriculum. We've never had that before in the middle school. So having the social emotional curriculum in place has been exciting. She is a strong teammate and liaison between the team and Jennifer's school and the service providers and the families to organize and help
help events happen, help students get what they need. She is a huge proponent for new students coming in, checking in with their former counselors and making their transition in their schedule. Everything that a school counselor would do. And she is also a whiz at our new at Power School and doing all of our scheduling that we had our other counselors do or our IT team do. So it's been a huge impact for our team to have a middle school counselor. What we asked for next year, bless you, was an additional teacher for our bubble class, and that was we did have that, and we had the resignation, and we just had Ms. Daly join us again. That position was ESSER funded. The ask for next year is that we make that ESSER funded position fully in the local budget for a full-time middle school teacher, not what Ms. Daly's doing right now, which is half intervention, half teaching. So the full teaching position is the ask for next year. The third thing we had on here, but it wasn't impacted by the budget, was our middle school interventionist. At one point, we did have an interventionist locally funded on the budget, but we took that off when we were able to access Title I funds. We did not have any applicants for either, but until Ms. Daly came along, was she able to do half of our intervention role. So our hope is to have a full-time middle school interventionist title funded next year again, and one full-time position in that was ESSER funded.
Hello?
Yeah.
So our situation was a little bit unique because we didn't hire a health teacher because we had no applicants. So I came back and asked, can I use this money for these two other positions that we need? One was a SAP, student assistance program, and the second was a planning room attendant. The SAP, I don't know if any of you have had the privilege of meeting Rachel, but it is another case of we are so incredibly lucky. Sometimes when we work with outside agencies, it's very clear. Oh, I don't work for you. I can't. I'm not doing lunch duty. I'm not doing any of that. Rachel is anywhere and everywhere. Her communication skills to adults and students alike is amazing. When our science teacher resigned, and we had just a couple days to fill in before the new one started, she said, "Oh, I'll do it." She is amazing, and she's bringing those evening events. That is from her pushing me from behind, saying, "Hey, we should do this. Hey, we should do this. Hey, I want to do this." In addition, what she was actually the actual job of an SAP is to meet with students. She is currently accessing 14 students and 12 are voluntary and are not mandated to meet with her. So that in itself is remarkable. My hope is that this is grant funded, but I won't know that till January. If that is, and then that would be able to come out of our local budget. But we also added this planner room attendant because we didn't have any health applicants, but we're gonna have 2 health applicants for next year, right? So I don't want to go backwards. Right.
Yes.
I don't want to go backwards. And the planning, what this says here on paper of all of what the SAP has added to our school, that's just numbers on paper. What she has brought to the school has been remarkable in her short time here, right? She didn't need any hand holding in terms of like, hey, these are some ideas that I want to, like, she's constantly coming to me with the ideas, which is a huge relief, a huge stress relief, right? It's not one more person to manage, it's one person to work with, and I love that. Our planning room attendant, I do think the biggest point out of that is if he wasn't here this year, 21 students would have lost 40 school days because we would have had to put them in out of school suspension because we didn't have the manpower to do it. And with having him here, those students are able to stay in school. They're able to work with him. They're not sitting there doing nothing. They're working with him and processing behaviors and getting caught up on the schoolwork that they don't have. So I would like, my big ask for next year is we're going to hire a health teacher, but can we please keep these 2 positions? I'm hoping that SAP winds up being grant funded, but I won't know that till January. And then third thing I threw in there, just to show you that I am trying to do things without asking for money, is the interdisciplinary learning program with the schools in the school, and our MASH, which is our math and science hour, and we use staff that we already had here, and just kind of reallocated where they go and what they do. That has brought us, the MASH program has allowed us students that maybe finished the end of freshman year with a 2, or now have the opportunity to move on to sophomore year, but go back and earn those freshman credits. And the interdisciplinary learning program allows students to access their 4 classes, their 4 core classes in a flexible manner, while really spending a lot of time looking at job shadows and things like that. We are putting out a survey to those students to say, hey, why did you buy into this program, and what piece are we missing? Because we kind of did do it with the bare bones, like we had a teacher here who wanted to do it. And we are going to regularly start meeting on Thursdays, which are curriculum meeting, to talk about how we can improve that program for next year. So right there, Dave, is another 12 students that I wouldn't count in flexible pathways, but they're totally doing a flexible pathway. So that's my big ask for next year, to hire a health teacher. I couldn't imagine going backwards now. I mean, that having this planning room attendant is the reason I'm able to meet with Kim on a weekly basis. I'm able to talk about moving flexible pathways forward, and I'm talking to my staff about getting a good grading handbook and starting to work on the proficiencies of the class. I couldn't imagine of doing that last year because we had bigger things to worry about. And now I don't know if it's the cell phone policy combined with all of these things, but the energy level here in terms of behaviors is way down, and we're able to move forward with academic work. I almost don't even want to say this out loud because I don't want to jinx it, but we're moving forward and it feels good.
So, all right.
So these are preliminary without all the information necessary. And you'll see an increase, but I just want to kind of settle the anxiety that brings. When the long-term when the new weighting system is in place. So let me back up and I'll explain it as simply as I can. There is a legislation in place, Elizabeth probably speaks to it better than I can. If your per pupil cost does not increase more than, it can't be over 10%, so it has to be under 10%. The tax rate is capped at 5%. So our goal is to keep the budget under that 10%, which will cap the tax rate at 5%. So when all the information comes in, the long-term weights and the CLA and the tax worksheet, we'll know better what this looks like on the tax rate. So I don't want you to panic that it's a higher amount of money.
And also, a lot of the increase is, I noticed, and there it is. I mean, it's really, the health insurance. is-
Health insurance, 16.8%
Oh my
increase.
goodness.
Yeah. And we have no control over that, right?
We knew it was gonna happen.
Yep.
When they made the change, 5 years ago?
Yeah.
So I thank you for sending the budget.
Yep.
I appreciate that.
We were thinking it would be next month that we would be diving into that, so apologies for.
Well, I just wanted to ask, for one thing, I didn't see any. So we're still negotiating contracts.
We still are negotiating. Yep.
And, so I asked at the contract bill.
Yes.
To make sure that more stipends got put into the contract. And I just want to make sure that, stipended positions they're local, right?
Yes.
Right, so I just want to make sure that we have it included in our budget, some of the stipends.
They should be in there already.
Okay.
We have talked about that.
I don't think there were any substantive changes to
Yeah.
it, but yeah, there.
There was one farm to school
Oh, right.
stipend added, just to try to, I mean, again, we have one school that has a farm to school coordinator. who's doing amazing things with teaching about nutrition and working with the food service, people on doing taste tests of the month. And you can do that when you have somebody leading that work. Windsor does not have somebody leading that work, nor does Weathersfield. So we did add those two stipends to, that one stipend to both Windsor and Weathersfield, so that we can coordinate across the SU.
It's great.
Yeah, it really is. It makes a huge difference. Craig's been asking for it and asking for it and asking for it. So, yeah, we think it's the year to do it because we feel like the schools in our SU are going to benefit from the long-term weighted averages. We just do.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. The other thing was we wanted to know, and I guess this is a question for Kate.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm checking your mic in.
I know, it's very late. I apologize.
He's like, are you okay?
I want to make sure that the feeder mics.
Yeah, I actually, so if you, on that, I'm not sure what page,
On the spreadsheet,
I put out to teachers, like, I don't want to guess your budget. What is it that you need? And I know that the music department did come back with, hey, I really love this. And they thought they were asking for like a huge ask, like $2,000, which doesn't feel like a huge ask for a theater department that we're trying to get up and running. But I'm not sure if it was for microphones, but it's on that spreadsheet. On the.
I can put it on my list and check with that to make sure it's in there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just asking, I'm asking you without looking at anything, so.
I increased I increased the general supplies for we're also, so the benefits are hurting us, increasing us. And the cost of everything is just so much more, right? So when we're running a project-based math class that depends on lumber, then we have to increase that budget. And when we're trying to run a new class without hiring, or new program, without hiring any staff. And this is our first year doing it now. We see like, oh, we need money for this for next year, but it is minimal what we ask for in those terms. I'm just trying to see what Lauren asked for, but I don't see it.
And Jennifer, I know it's late, but I was wondering if you can tell me whether it worked out in absorbing Mr. Justice's departure, whether there's stipends that can be added to pay the teachers who had to absorb that extra work and responsibility.
So Jennifer had a plan for that. I mean, obviously we're trying to hire
of course,
long-term stuff, but I believe Jasper is her permanent sub is covering the.
Currently, we have our art teacher who's also our 0.6 permanent sub who is covering, and we're paying Patrick Allen actually to help support him while we're waiting for a long-term certified PE teacher to join us.
Okay.
That's how we're doing with the PE. When it comes to the other part, that the 0.5 that was place-based, we're actually talking with staff about who can take what leads. And that may lead to us trying to stipend them to do some of that extra work. It also means that some of the stuff isn't going to happen as it used to. So for example, I used to have them go out on Mondays to go do the ice rink when possible during the winter. We're not going to have that option. So it's just going to have to be, I mean, it's a parent organization thing to begin with. We'll see what happens, right? That's kind of just one of those things. So we are talking about some people taking leads on specific components of place-based for the rest of this year as we're bridging the gap between the leaving and having somebody who's got the ability to put their head around this in a meaningful way.
Okay, all right, thank you. So Laura did not ask for the microphones and the increase in their budget. She asked for, she likes what we do about keeping ticket prices low, but that also impacts, often the teachers do impact the program. So she wants to compete in the Vermont and New England One Act festivals, which requires registration fees, busing, overnight travel expenses. She would like, it was a minimal increase for that in our budget as opposed to having kids fundraising. But I can talk to her about the microphones and see.
And that's also something we can talk to our IT team about.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's not
That could,
necessarily a
could be,
theater thing
it could
since
be a
it benefits.
shared, it could be a shared budgeting
Yeah.
with teaching.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
I mean, it's almost a maintenance thing.
Mhm.
Or I don't know where it would fall, but it's benefits the community, benefits all, it's not just the theater programming.
Correct.
Okay,
But it's needed.
yeah, it's hard to hear.
I noticed that too.
Yeah, I sat in the third row and I still didn't know what you were saying.
Slides for transportation and maintenance and insurance.
These are broken out from the
Those are wrong
spreadsheet.
years. Also.
Can you share this slide?
Sure. Yep.
If
Happy to.
you share it, we'll get it in the portal too. So people
Yeah,
can-
so I can give it to Lori and she can put it in the portal.
Those are the
Great.
totals on the end there. That are not final.
So that means, parents would also be able to access it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll give it to Lori. She can.
That's great.
And we should have better numbers in.
Yeah.
For the next meeting.
Okay. Great, thank you. And, all right. Our items for discussion are voting to approve the departure, right?
And the hires, yep.
And the hires. So I'll take a motion to approve the one departure and two hires. Can I just say it that way?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the one departure and two hires, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And, committee to work on budget presentation, logistics, and March elections.
James is the guy. Set up a meeting with Larry.
Okay, excellent. And, okay, I'll do the executive session. Oh, our next meeting, we need to have at Albert Bridge.
Okay.
Because we've gotten off of,
Okay.
we haven't, we've only been to Albert Bridge once this school year, so.
Yep.
And that is what the,
Oh, the date, yes, January 8th. And, what, can we mostly focus on budget that night?
Yeah.
I mostly did you know more? I was trying to. Yes, that's okay, but before, let's focus on the budget, and then if we're not able to adopt it, set another meeting
Yeah.
date for January.
Okay. Okay. All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Some,
Are we gonna take this?
No, I can do it next.
Okay.
Did you say when the next meeting was?
January 8th
I
at
took
Albert
my- I
Bridge,
took my earphones up.
at Albert Bridge, Dave,
I
at
heard that.
6:30. 6:30.
Oh, yeah, okay, well, I'll be there early. I'll be there early.
So I'll take a.
So moved to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It's,
right, walk out the door.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Oh, I bye, Jessica.
There's the ladies between me and this.
Right out the door.
I don't think we're doing
Yeah,
that.
minutes, actually.
That was exciting.